to I can't remember what episode this is, but it is an episode of New Jackson podcast. Myself and Stevie Sheldon isn't around because he is in the midst of completing his book, which is going to be a surprise, hopefully before the end of next month. But Stevie and I have two special guests, and I'll actually let Stevie do the introductions because he's known them for many, many, many years.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, listeners, viewers around the world. How you doing? Tonight's special edition, I had to bring on two guys that I know very well, close to my heart. We've been through a lot in the past, but I had to get them on because when the internet started, if you was a fan of New Jack Swing and you just went on Google and typed in the word New Jack Swing, probably the first thing that came up in the Google search was NJS4E. And I was thinking, what is NJS4E? And I stumbled on this website. This is early 2000s. And I was just blown away. I thought, wow, I found what I've always been looking for. A site that talks about New Jack Swing, all the releases. I found a forum. I met these two guys, but we will go into it. We got VJ, we got Andrew Knight with us. I'm excited tonight. Bit emotional as well, but yes, it's good to see you guys after all this time.
Brilliant to see you guys as well, and it is emotional. I like Nanamdi. I think it's the interesting thing about this is when I think of NJS4E, I think of these three people. There's a couple more people. There's DJ Freeze and KB and SBL and a few other people, but these three people, I think these three people, when I think of NJS4E, my first thoughts. But fantastic to all be together again. Just very exciting.
And I want to say, there's a slight delay on my side, so okay. I'm going to try not to talk over people. But just wanted to say everything that VJ said. It's crazy to me that the site started 20 years ago. And even though we're gonna get into the highs, the lows, the beginning, the end, or whatever, or the transformation. But I think all in all, I think we had a really good run, and the fact that we're still here talking about it today, and there's still a forum or group on Facebook that's still pretty active, I think it says a lot. So it's beautiful that music has such power to bring people together in such a profound way. So that's my opening statement.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's just coming in and not understanding, so there is. I remember being. I think I was in Los Angeles at this time, and like anyone who's a big fan of Teddy and what's going on, you always want to find out and try and search. And when the internet came around, being able to turn in a search and say what's happening with Teddy, and your site was definitely one of the sites that that you can get the information from, because you had your Right On in Black Beach and you had your Ebony and you had all this stuff, but they weren't as specific with the kind of information that I needed. And I remember, the 911, hearing about them, hearing about Tammy, what's going on. It was from you guys, and so. To really, this was before we could get anything. And, and not only that, you guys were interviewing. I mean, you probably the first people to actually interview Tammy Lucas, because she doesn't, I saw you guys interview, what's his name? So from Basic Black and 911. Diesel. And so, I mean, and you had so many different interviews from people within the Teddy camp and stuff like that. So, you guys had access before there was access, and, if the site was probably 20 years later, with social media and stuff, it would have probably been a whole nother level. But, it was great as it was. So, yes, we could probably start with maybe Andrew, and then we'll get to VJ. I mean, how did the idea of NJS3, how did it all come about?
So it's funny Stevie had talked about like the beginning of the internet. I remember, because we're the generation, we remember what life was like before the internet. So for me, when I would log on to this tool and then type in things that I loved, whether it was New Edition, whether it was Transformers, whether it was whatever, and I find a website about it, it just gave me so much joy and love. So for me, there's a couple of things I gotta say. Number one, the New Jack Swing music and movement meant a lot to me. And I wanted to share that with the world. So I wanted to give the kind of joy that I got when I would go and type something on the internet. I wanted to give that joy to other people. So it was really me kind of trying to be the change I wanted to see in the world. If you haven't seen it done, just go ahead and do it and make it happen. It was almost like sending a satellite out into outer space looking for signs of intelligent life or other people. So when I was getting hit up by, Shy Portrait, who I see in the chat, when I was getting hit up by DJ Freeze, when I was getting hit up by other people, then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. And who knew that this music was beyond just the US? Like, I didn't know that, So basically from there, I made the forum because I wanted to be able to kind of give people a place to hang out once they visited the website. But ultimately, to answer your question, I just wanted to be the change I wanted to see in the world. So if no one's doing it, go ahead and do it and see what happens.
Wow. But VJ, how did you meet up with Andrew?
I joined NJS4E as a forum member, and I guess it just grew. I mean, obviously, New Jack Swing is a big part of all of our lives. I met so many kindred spirits, meeting Stevie, Nathan, DJ Freeze, people like DJ Blade, Andrew, KB. I met so many people that I connected with, and that's what it was about. That's what I felt New Jack Swing was about. It was about connecting people, and we're all geeks. That's what we are. We're just all geeks. We just talk about music. I had a jam session like with some friends last weekend, and we spent 7 hours listening to and just talking about music. That is exactly what NJS4E was about, the forum side anyway. We couldn't wait to get back on to see what answers and questions there were, what people were sharing, because we were learning about music. This is the early days of the internet, so it was very interesting. And then artists started contacting us about different things. Dizo and Rob from 911, they had asked me to be their manager. They wanted 911 to come back. Wow. So that was interesting. That would have been interesting. I would have loved to have seen them blow up, because 911 are probably the most unsung group ever. Maybe in the land of R&B. Intro had asked the same thing. They wanted me to be their manager. So there was different things that were coming up, and I think NJS4E it was about connecting people that needed different things. Sure, there was the forum, but there was more than that. And then on top of that, we had events. So we started doing parties. Stevie was a DJ at one of the first ones, and that was a brilliant night. I remember, all I remember is a very rare Key West Uptown promo, flying on the floor and thinking, oh, it was funny. It was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun together. So events, we've done parties, we've done a few concerts and a few bits and pieces, but that was what NJS Forever was. It was just about connecting people and like-minded music people. And for us, it was validation when we realized that a lot of people that we were fans of, they loved what we did. And that was the best thing. And that's what NJS Forever was about.
I do want to jump in really quick as well, because there is a sociological element as well. So I want to try to not take too much time, but I want to bring light to it. So one of the reasons why the New Jack era meant a lot to me was, growing up as a Black person, just keeping it real, in Canada, which was not a very diverse place. I wanted to see kind of Blackness be presented sociologically in a more uplifting light. I think in the 80s, it was very much kind of excluded. It was more about we're going to tolerate your presence. We're not really going to like include you. But then kind of to take the quote from We Got Our Own Thing from Heavy D, it's like, we have our own thing and everyone's invited to this party. So between the years 88 and 92, you saw a lot of things happening in pop culture where it was a lot more inclusive. You had Arsenio Hall, who was a talk show host, who was bringing all these artists who weren't going to be played on Carson or whoever. You had on Thursday nights, prime time, you had Cosby Show and A Different World. You had, basically right before 92 and 93, when kind of gangster rap took over and basically blackness kind of became the N-word, B, ho, weed, there was a more kind of uplifting, positive vibe. And I just felt like NJS didn't really get, for me, in my opinion, a proper burial because it was kind of over. So I made the website to basically celebrate that spirit as well, because I do think it's important to understand that blackness should not be defined by just gangster and weed and all that stuff. It actually has a more three-dimensional, upwardly mobile, black college, whatever kind of vibe. So that was also a huge part of why I made it. And I did a year-by-year history on the website as well. Last but not least, I wanted to also give a good segue to the forum, in that Stevie, was, I would call, like the spirit of the forum, because he was there to make sure that the interaction was there. He was there to make sure that there was real community. I got to shout out Mellow 75 really quick. I got to shout out a couple 97's Browns. I mean, there are people in there who were a big part of what made it special. And because it had to be more than just a commercial thing or even a geeky thing. It had to be a love thing. And I want to just kind of pass the microphone over to Stevie so he can elaborate more on his experience in the beginning.
Can you remind me, before I even got into the forum, I can't remember the person who was putting up the photographs and doing he was doing album reviews. It wasn't in the forum, it was on some of the pages. I forgot the person's name.
Well, I mean, I will say,
an artist page, weren't there? You go on the artist page and there's a photograph and there was like a review of an album, and I can't remember who did that.
I mean, I will say I was doing most of that stuff, but I'm gonna hand it over to you anyway. But yeah.
But Stevie, before you say that, can you show them the album that VJ just sent you? Because to show you how deep these guys are with their stuff, I mean,
yeah, VJ sent me this in the mail. It's a Kids at Work 12-inch that I've never seen before.
Can you imagine that, guys?
Oh, and it's not, the tracks are not even on their album. That's Leveba, as you pointed out earlier, VJ. But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of stuff I was digging for. You'd come on the forum and you'd find out about albums and 12-inch singles that you probably never even heard of. So that was one of the great things about the forum, as well as all the other members that were on it. It was just a whole network of people sharing information, getting on with one another. It led to parties. But you got to remember, this all took place before social media. I think what was the first social media start? Was it MySpace? After about 4 or 5 years.
I actually want to even jump in there again. I don't want to talk too much, but okay. So basically, there was 3 things that I think that kind of contributed to kind of us not having the foothold we had in 04, really to like maybe 08. So the first thing is, yes, there was no social media. There was no YouTube. So basically, the first thing was I also found these videos online from some other website that they weren't being publicized. It was just like a bunch of music videos sitting somewhere. So I went ahead and took the links to those music videos, embedded them on a page, and basically this was the first and only place you could watch New Jack Swing videos. I would actually find them with some other one. That was first thing. YouTube came along. No longer we no longer have the exclusive on that. Secondly, we had the year-by-year history in all of the bios of the artists. Okay, Wikipedia comes out. So basically, if you want to look up, learn more about the artist, now you can go to Wikipedia, right? And then finally, social media. The forum was the place where all the people would come. First, there was MySpace, then there was Facebook, and then basically people were going to go, and we actually got with the times and we moved over to Facebook as well, which is where you can see us. But between Wikipedia, YouTube, and Facebook, that's what kind of it diluted us. but we were there before all of that. So
yeah, you know, the forum. I mean, that was it. It was forums back then, wasn't it? We'd all log on to these, whatever you was into, you'd log on to a forum, a message board, and you know, you'd post away. And I think what really kind of destroyed the forum was the hackings, because there was hackers around at the time who were just hacking forums, you know, and that hit us hard. I remember after a few years, severely hit us hard, you know.
How did you guys get the attention of the artists? I mean, because if you think about it, you know, the Teddy's team and all the producers and those artists, how did they know what you guys were doing?
I'll talk, and then I'm going to hand it over to VJ, because I think that was really kind of his specialty. But I will never forget the feeling in 2002, maybe it was 2003, but Bernard Bell actually wrote out to me. He reached out to me.
The legendary Bernard, rest in peace, yes. Bernard. Oh.
Rest in peace. He wrote me. He was the first one to give me an interview. And he basically said, look, I love what you're doing. Like, it's so beautiful that you are celebrating this music, but it was more than just Teddy. And I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to have their, you know, have their story told. So there's his interview is still on. I still actually have the very original website. It's like an Angel Fire site. It's like so old. If you go to NJS4ever.net, I believe it's still there. But yeah, he talked about, you know, just working with Tammy Lucas. He talked about High Five, I Like the Way. He talked about Remember the Time with Michael Jackson. So he was the first. But I think from there, when you got one artist, and then I think Aaron Hall talked to another, so we had a lot of associates. Zapman, I want to shout you out if you're out there. Zapman was the one who also got Aaron Hall and then Teddy for the first time. And what's really cool, and this is a good segue, is that was the first time I'd actually met VJ. So we're talking, I want to say August of 2005 at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. And we actually had dinner, and not dinner, but like we went and ate at like Mel's, I think, on Sunset or something like that. But yeah, but then from there, I think, you know, while I was holding it down on the website front and just trying to keep that going, I think VJ was more about kind of taking it off the screens of the internet and into real life. I'm gonna hand it over to you, man.
Yeah, I think the beginnings of NJS Forever was very interesting. Like with, you got to remember, with artists, they're fans of the music too, so they're trying to find out things about New Jack Swing online. Back, this is before, you know, early days of the internet, and I had there's a lot of people that came up to all of us. Came up to Stevie. You would have had a lot of people interact with you. With all of us, we just had a lot of interaction with artists, and I think we were like, for a little while, I think we were geeking out because we're like, oh my god,
we were kids.
Yeah, we were kids ourselves. So you know, this person or that person's reached out to us, like that concert in LA at the Greek
Theater.
Who was the lineup? You had phenomenal lineup.
Yeah, it was. I think so. Guy was the headliner, and it sucked because they actually had to cut it short because it was Guy was headliner. Gerald Levert was there, rest in peace. Belle Biv DeVoe killed it. They were there.
Wow.
I'm forgetting somebody.
Amazing performance by Belle Biv DeVoe.
You know, Belle Biv DeVoe, they were just amazing. So, John, I think was Johnny there?
Johnny was there. Casey and JoJo.
Wow. Yeah, I think they were.
And who? Jimmy Jam. Remember we saw Jimmy.
We saw him like in the
Jimmy
crowd.
Jam when we were losing.
Let me tell you, Jimmy Jam is like legitimately like my favorite producer of all time, and I am honored. Here's where I'm going to be a little geeky to say, like, you know, we follow each other on the gram. That's cool. Like, but no, Jimmy Jam. Seriously though, he is like the man. To be able to see him in person and just that was great. That was back in 2005. We were like, we're not even 30 yet. We're like late 20s. Which to me now is that's a kid.
And the other thing you mentioned Bernard Bell, and we did a party, we did a showcase event at the Sugar Bar on the Upper East Side, I think it was.
20th anniversary of New Jack Swing, and we actually had another rest in peace. Just got paid. Johnny Kemp performed there.
Wow.
So, you know, it's crazy to me when we look back between '04 and '08, like we did a lot. I mean, I also remember the person who coined the term New Jack Swing, Barry Michael Cooper. He's a writer. He actually wrote the script to New Jack City. When I put on the website, according to legend, it was coined by Barry Michael Cooper. He reaches out and said, "Ain't no legend. Like, I'm here. Like, I did it." You know, and he's like, sends me the Village Voice article where he coined the term, describing Teddy Riley and Gene Griffin and everything. Jeff Red, we got to give him love, you know, because he was definitely, I think, a big supporter. I think that it just resonated. There was something, you know, in the air, but we were just kind of helping to kick it off, man. And there wasn't that like social media yet, to your point. So this was the only way for them, I think, to kind of really touch the people, you know, because everything was so cut off, like in the 80s and the 90s, and even maybe the early zeros. But now, of course, your relationship with the people that like your music is everything.
The site did start at that 2000s period. It did start a mini revival. I remember there was a couple of releases come out on Universal. There was the Bobby Brown Gold double CD. You did the notes for that, and there was a New Jack Swing Gold double CD. And I to this day, if NJS4E wouldn't have been there, then them releases wouldn't have happened.
Oh, fantastic releases! Really, really good albums.
Oh my God, where's it talking now? So I gotta also give props to a gentleman named Randy O'Kelly. He was also very, very validating. Summer of 2003. This is literally right after like Barry Michael Cooper reaches out. He's working at Time Life Music, and their goal was to actually put out a New Jack Swing like Time Life music series, which is great because I don't know if you've seen those commercials where it's like Time Life Collectors, the 50s, and they'll have like commercials of the song. And he was working on that. And normally they would go and get copywriters, whatever, that there's in-house copywriters. But when he found the site, he was like, like we got to work with this dude because this guy knows this stuff. And so I was able to write the liner notes for that too. So yeah, I think that it was just about showing people and showing the world that this wasn't like the disco of R&B that kind of came and went. This was actually, it had an era, it had its time, but there are still strands of it to this day, and there's still fans of it to this day. I just rhymed and didn't even mean to. But we just wanted to show people that this was bigger than just a blip in music history.
Yeah. I mean, how were you getting the attention of record labels, though? Because there's one thing to get the attention of artists, but the labels, all
the labels were sniffing around the site around that time. I remember getting what they call private messages from people. There were interns at likes of Def Jam, Sony, just writing messages. You know, I'm not going to say what they were, but they were sniffing around. I remember Andrew telling you at the time things were going on. Obviously, VJ, you wanted to take it to a different level, which, you know, you did, but there's a lot going on at the time. I'm amazed who's in these messages tonight. It's a lot of the old members, Kev the Chef, Dan. Gosh, I haven't seen Dan's name for ages.
Dan's man.
What up, Dan?
What's up, buddy?
Dan actually helped with the hacking. So by the way, the logo that you see behind, that was like when the site kind of rebirthed. We were already planning on doing a relaunch anyway, but the hacking happened in like November or October of 2005, and that really hurt us. We redid the forum, we redid the site, but it hurt. But Dan, I remember, was there to help because he was an IT guy. Hope I'm not like calling you out and say your last name. But like you were so instrumental in helping us like re-establish the site. So thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, what was the did you give a running count as to how many users or people you had at this peak?
I don't even know, man.
It was thousands.
It was thousands for sure, but like I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I would see things like 100,000. Like, remember when hits was a thing? Like, oh, you got like 100,000 hits a month or something like that, or like something crazy. I just know it was big. I mean, but I couldn't. Maybe yeah, it was a lot.
For the time, it was a lot. I think this is before YouTube. MySpace had a big impact. Do you remember we'd be on the forum and then MySpace came out. We're like, this is cool. And then there was all those different user accounts from all of our.
I remember being in the top 8 of like Al B. Shore, and I think even Ralph Tresvant had us in the top 8. I'm like, yes. Remember when top 8 was a thing? Like being in someone's top 8 was like,
top 8 on MySpace.
Yeah. Do you remember VJ? Do you remember the Dorchester Hotel?
We were at I tell you where it was. It was in Soho. You're talking about with Jodeci?
Yes.
Oh, that was amazing.
And I never forget you having like, I mean, you did really well because you had like an argument with security because security came up going, "What are you doing here?" And you try to explain to him. And then you got all with Devontae, and I was just starstruck at he wasn't. I was like, I didn't know what to say to him. Devontae was there with his thing and his cane, and I'll never forget.
That was good. I think we interviewed all 4 members, and I remember you complimented me. You said, VJ, you didn't have any recording device, and you remembered the interview almost word for word.
You did.
It's because I'm a geek. I remember stuff like this is Jodeci. Come on, man. Who doesn't love Jodeci?
I mean, it'd be so different now, wouldn't it? If you're still in a hotel now waiting for Jodeci, you'd have a camera, you'd have everything there. But back then, just like you literally just winged it, you know?
Yeah, no, that was very cool. Yeah, very cool.
I mean, I don't even know how you knew they were even coming. You were like, Steve, get to Dorchester Hotel in like half an hour. I'm like, what's going on? And it turned up.
I think it's a little bit like, you know how reporters, they get a tip. I think I got a tip. And the tip, I don't know, I can't remember how it was. And I was in touch with people that were connected to their event. And she said, yeah, they're here. So that's how I went there. That's how we ended up there because we got the tip. It's who you know, right? And I slipped her a Mars bar.
but what about the information? Because as I said, I was in the States but even when I moved to the UK, I mean, yeah, you're searching for stuff, and you guys would always come up with the information about, about what they're working on, what's happening here. I mean, how are you guys getting those type of stories? Were you getting the fans from around that knew stuff saying this is what's happening? Because it felt almost like a news outlet as well as just a place where you can ask questions.
Thank you. That was absolutely one of my goals. I absolutely wanted to be basically a media, like a broadcasting thing. Like I saw NJS4E as like a baby MTV or something. Like I wanted to be what I would call a pop culture purveyor. I wanted to be a place where people could go to get information. So there was like a latest news page. There was like, again, that's really what you're referring to. And I think for me, it was more about just being an aggregator, like finding all these different things and then bringing them together. So I always had my ears out for like whatever was happening. So if it could be verified, we would report it or we would link it. So I would call it aggregation. I would just call it just gathering it from wherever we could, however we could, and putting it in one place.
Yeah.
But then also, would any opportunities to swap like the latest mixes or rare finds? Was that ever a part of the forum at the time?
That was going on. It was going on. Like it was kind of going on privately.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
we weren't.
No, what's funny? What's funny is another thing. Okay, so it's so funny. I would consider myself definitely like probably like B+. Like there's people who are even way more fanatical than even I am about the music. So I didn't know that there was almost like a contraband, almost like illicit's too strong of a word, but it's almost like these finding these rare like radio only, promo only mixes of like Black Rock. There was a kid, I think from like Japan, who was always asking, does anyone have Black Rock? Can you find Black Rock? It was this like holy grail of like Teddy Riley production. It's people fiend for this stuff. It's almost like a weird like do we talk about the addiction? No. Anyway, I'm being too dramatic now. But seriously, when you talk about those unreleased mixes, yeah, people can get a little weird because you might have paid a lot of money to get it. It might be hard to get it, but it's there and it exists, and you're just like, Anyway, yeah.
So, VJDX, how did you get connected to interview Rex and Effect? Because it'd be good to hear some of those stories when as people ask.
So Mr. Blackbeat has just asked that question. It's with Rex and Effect. I think that was the weekend that because NJS4E was nominated for sorry, go on.
Best honorary website, and it's actually perfect because Randy talked about that. So so the VH1 Hip Hop Honors in 2007, it was all about honoring Teddy Riley. He was one of them. So they had like Teddy Riley, Missy Elliott, Snoop Dogg, and I think some guy who did a movie called Wild Style. So best honorary website, right, was one of the categories. So for Teddy Riley and New Jack Swing, they chose our website as the official website for New Jack Swing. And that's when VH1 recognized us. So it was me, Vij, and another friend of mine named Paul. What's up, Paul? Shout out to you. We got out there, did work, met Andre Harrell, but we're going to talk about that later, but then go back to you and Rex and Effect.
I think it was one of the events because there was a lot of events around the VH1 Hip Hop Honors. There was events, multiple events every day. I think it was for 4 or 5 days. And one of the events was a discussion. Was it about New Jack Swing or was it about the music with Andre Harrell? And I think Akil was one of the people on the panel as well.
It's the same day. Yeah, I think it was New Jack Swing. I think it was.
I think it was a conversation about New Jack Swing. And we interviewed Akil Davidson because we met him then. He knew who we were already, and Andre Harrell. And that's how we met Rex and Effect. And obviously, we stayed in touch. That's how we met.
And at this time, you guys aren't say, Stevie talks about being starstruck when he saw Devontae and stuff. But were you guys desensitized from this and thinking, okay, we're actually the big deal here, and you guys need to hear from us? Or what was it like?
Can I say something about this one?
Yes, you can.
So we did that. We were at that concert at the Greek with Guy, Bell Biv DeVoe, Casey Jojo, Gerald Levert, Johnny Gill, whoever else was there. Incredible lineup. And at the end of it, Teddy Riley he asked us to come out for dinner. And for us, I was starstruck there. I have to be honest. Like your Devontae moment was your Devontae moment. For me, it was Teddy Riley in Los Angeles, and he's taking us to dinner. And I called up I spoke to my wife a couple of days later when I came back, and I said, I think meeting Teddy was the second best day of my life after the wedding. That's how I felt, because it's like Teddy was a big deal, man. I love Teddy. I've obviously calmed down a lot now. I'm not like that now. All right, Teddy, nice one, good one. That's cool. So none of that now, but at the time, I was definitely starstruck.
Was that before or after? Do you remember the London gig where we met Teddy round the back entrance after he finished performing, and he was in like this big black cab, and he said he was got to China Whites, and you said to me, Steve, do you want to go to China Whites? I've got to go to work in the morning, and I'm like, now.
Oh, yeah, that's it. And it
could be a P Diddy after party that I'll walk the other way. Anyway, we won't go.
That we missed out on.
Yeah.
No, I think what that was Hammersmith Apollo. That was a gig. I think who was there? I want to say it was Teddy and Blackstreet, and who else was on that bill? I can't remember. I can't remember. Was it Jodeci was on that bill? No.
It was the one where Guy was thinking, is Guy gonna come out, and it was just Teddy.
Was it that?
It's that build up was Guy featuring Teddy Riley.
So this was afterwards.
Yeah, and then obviously Aaron didn't and Damien didn't turn out.
They couldn't get on the plane for whatever the reasons were, but that was not a good look at the time. I remember.
Damage, that was it. Damage were on. The UK
Damage was great. Damage was fantastic.
VJ, did Teddy pay for the dinner?
With the 1-2 checker.
He did pay for dinner. Where did we go? We tried to go to Roscoe's, and then we went to Mel's.
It was Mel's. It was called Mel's. Mel's.
We ended up at Mel's Diner on Sunset. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow,
do you remember every year on the forum we'd have a debate whether we was going to get a new Guy album or a new Blackstreet album, and it never came.
I mean, there was a lot of promises for me. Like, out of artists from that era that I wanted to see come out with something, I would have said Jodeci. It never made any sense after the show, the after party, for them not to come out with an album, because they had that bonus track on Casey and JoJo's album in '99. Slip and Fall and Get Back. There were 2 Jodeci tracks on there, and they were still working, and they did all those tracks on Don't Be a Menace and other soundtracks, High School High, and they just promised it, and then it just never came out. And who did we speak to? We spoke to Jeff Red. Was telling us when we met out in LA,
Santa Monica,
another trip. We met Jeff Red out there, and he said the problem with Jodeci is Devante is too much of a perfectionist. That is what the problem is. The music is ready, and I've heard lots of Devante unreleased bits and pieces, but it was ready. Just drop it. Just release it. What are you waiting for, man? And it made no sense. That blew my mind. I could not comprehend that. That was like I think my brain exploded from that. I just didn't understand it.
Did you guys stick to New Jack Swing? Because there was a lot of stuff on Uptown that probably, hip hop soul. There was a lot of R&B stuff. Did you guys say no? We have to stick to the New Jack, Teddy, and the Uptown stuff, or were you allowed to branch out?
So I just moved my head a little bit. You'll see it says New Jack Swing, hip hop soul, and I think pop R&B. I think I said there. So it's like, no, okay. I don't think we were locked into it. I think we actually had like a core, but then we would break out because I think hip hop soul, and this gets into kind of a debate in terms of what's considered New Jack Swing versus what's considered hip hop soul, that kind of thing. But no, I think that we definitely try to understand, there is a through line. There is a connection between all these genres, because I do think that a Mary J. Blige is absolutely, part of the story. But I think calling her New Jack Swing, in my opinion, would be a bit of a stretch. I think I put her more in the hip hop soul camp.
Who's that?
Well, you did expand. You expanded the forum.
Mary J.
You expanded it to include.
Yeah.
It started off as New Jack, and then it went hip hop soul, and it got to all other bits. So it did expand. Looking back,
definitely, and I think that was part of it. Like anything that was related to that, and like even with the parties, like the parties that we did. Do you remember, Stevie? We did them, and the foundation of those parties was New Jack Swing. We'd play a lot of New Jack Swing, but then you'd play 90s R&B, hip hop soul. There'd be golden era hip hop. And there'd be a sprinkling of like 80s soul, like
Roses Are Red, like Mac Band. I specifically remember that getting a big reaction from the crowd when I was there in March '07. So absolutely, we got it. We love music at the end of the day. I kind of want to jump back to your question though about being starstruck. I will say, for me, one of my favorite memories was in Chicago when there was a concert featuring Bobby Brown, Boyz II Men, and Johnny Gill. And we actually met and interviewed Bobby, and he was so down to earth, so cool. We had the privilege of meeting Pops Brown, rest in peace, and even seeing who was going to be his wife, but she was his manager at the time. And that was one of the realest, like a better microphone setup for that, because I think that interview, like we got a lot out of him in terms of like what he liked. Like I think Till the End of Time was his favorite song he talked about. We brought the song Tap Into My Heart, and he seemed to really like appreciate the fact that I'm like, what happened to that song? And what happened to Mystical Magical? Like it was just a really, really good.
What did he say?
I gotta go watch the video to remember. But
He
lost
said it's
the
not going to
video.
come out. He said, I don't think it will come out.
Yeah, but it's like it's good. It's there. Yeah, but you know what? Never say never. I do think these things can happen. But I just wanted to bring up, for me, like, Joe is definitely Guy, like that Guy. Like it's kind of like nucleus groups. Like for him, I would say it's probably Guy. For me, it's New Edition. So if it's Bobby, Ralph, whoever, I'm like, holy crap! Like I'm meeting you. Y'all are my idols. Like y'all have like helped like craft my identity, and now I'm talking to you and we're just breaking bread. Love it.
And another thing about that Bobby Brown interview, and I have to say, you haven't asked this question, but if I was to say who the nicest person I've met, it's Bobby Brown. That man is an angel. He is the most beautiful spirit ever. Absolute, lovely, just beautiful.
Yes.
I couldn't say one bad about Bobby Brown. The best, and so kind, and that was funny.
I remember also like the idea was we weren't going to get any video, just audio. So we start doing the interview, and he just turns the camera around. He's just like, whatever. He was so down to earth and so cool. And I think Johnny kept coming over and giving him a hug, almost like, yo, like if you need me to save you, like let's go. And like Bobby's like, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. These guys are cool. It's all good. And then we just kept going. It was a beautiful interview.
What do you think happened? What do you think was the reason back then that people trusted you guys? Because they don't do it. They don't trust.
The same reason
how
why
hard it is for me
trust
today.
halftime chat, Namdi, because it's strictly about the music.
Good answer.
Yeah, because I know it. You do watch a lot of them. They don't trust. So I was just wondering. But back then, I think I'm fortunate to have during lockdown, a lot of people were doing this stuff. But back in those days, if you went from Ebony or Black Beat or one of these recognized establishment, did they realize that you guys were fan based stuff and you're really about the music and really promoting and supporting them, and they weren't worried about you trying to find dirt?
I think so. I think there was a track record. They could type in NJS Forever, poke around the website, and then go, oh, okay, yeah. And they could also see, oh, you've already talked to so-and-so, you've talked to so-and-so. Okay, cool. Like, I think we would pass the sniff test. But I think to your point, like Stevie, again, yeah, we were never about the gossip. And why? Like, no, it's about the music.
And Andrew, do you remember during that interview, the one in Chicago with at the Bobby Brown concert? So his wife was his manager at the time. I think she's still his manager. So
yeah.
We realized after a bit, we're like, that's the girl on the sax from the Rump Shaker video.
Yes.
Like, what?
Yes.
That's the girl from the Rump Shaker video. And me and Andrew were like, if anybody's watched the Rump Shaker video and you've seen that woman, that lovely lady with the sax on the beach, you'll know why we were so excited. We were like, it was great. It was great. We were very excited.
You didn't ask her. You didn't say were you the one?
What's that?
You didn't ask her. Are you? You didn't.
No,
you didn't bring it up.
We didn't bring that up. But he ended up marrying her shortly after that. Like I think a few years after that, which was crazy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The who was the most? So you probably was one of the most down to earth and friendly. Who was the one that you really got to learn a lot about some backstage stuff that like, wow, I didn't realize that. Who dropped gem after gem after gem. It's like, wow, this is proper exclusive.
There's a few of those. I think an interesting one was Teddy had a DJ called Cut Technician.
Oh, I didn't even think that was, I think, Cut Technician. Well, that was on the Hardest Move album. We can hear them, but there's a real crew. I just thought it was just a phrase there.
Cut Technician was a guy called Steve D, and he had some fascinating stories. Oh my God, he had some fascinating stories. And I don't think it's the right place to reveal any of those stories, but they were very, very interesting. Maybe when we switch off the camera, I might.
What about Neville Hodge, VJ? How did you get hold of him?
Neville.
Again, there's a name that's been forgotten. He shouldn't be forgotten, but
Novelle's watching this now.
Wow.
So he said he's going to tune in. So he's watching it now, or he will watch it. I had a chat with him earlier. Novelle's one of the nicest guys. Really talented musician. I think of a handful of producers that were there that formed the foundation for Uptown Records. I would say Marley Marl. I would say Albie Shaw and Carl West. I'd say Teddy Riley. And I would say DJ Eddie F and Novell Hodge. Novell Hodge was pivotal to that whole sound. And we met him. There was something with Intro. We were hanging out. I was out with Buddy and Jeff from Intro. And they were working in the studio. And Novell, I'd reached out to Novell, and he said he was going to come down. I can't remember how we met, actually. Somebody contacted somebody, and then we kept in touch. But the first time I met him was in the Bronx, at the studio with Intro.
Jumping on your question, I think one of the realest people I met, and I think Vij can also agree with me on this, I would say Jeff Red. I saw him. He took kind of almost like a mentoring approach. I think he really liked what we were doing, and again, he should get credit. I think people know this, but if you don't, he was the one who discovered Mary J. Blige, and he's the one who brought her to Uptown Records. But he was like giving me suggestions like, hey, you should be doing like these, before there was TikTok or any of that. He was like, just do these little video clips and put them up. People just want to see your face. People just want to like whatever. And at that point, like life was just kind of getting kind of real for me, because I'll be honest with you, this is all being done like on nights and weekends, so it was like I had to basically just focus on my job so I'd have a roof over my head and whatever. So, I had to kind of, that's one of the reasons why I did step away from this. But back then, he was very, I think, excited, enthusiastic. We actually had a party at a place called Mansion in Manhattan. It's gone now. It was a meatpacking district. And it was like we called it the Spotlight, as in, the thing from New Jack City. And Barry Michael Cooper was there. I remember, what's his name? Oh my God, Carl Thomas was there. But anyway, I Found Lovin' comes on, right? And the DJ plays it, and all of a sudden, like everyone's just like turning around, and Jeff Red stands up on like the couch with the microphone, and he's performing. And it was pandemonium. And he did that just out of love. Like, normally, he would just perform for free, but he gave us a mini concert to do I Found Lovin'. I think one other song that he did. And then it was like on mediatakeout.com. This is another, like, it was a gossip site, to be fair. But that site like gave us like, I think we had like, back then it was a lot, but like I think 50,000 views in like one day from Jeff just trying to big up us because it was an NJS4E party. Wow. So I just want to give mad love to Jeff. He was always real and let us hear some music that he's working on. And definitely, I think, just kind of kick game as far as like the industry. So, yeah.
Did you guys ever meet? Because one person that we all celebrate but never really got to see him was Joseph Stonestreet. Did you guys have him on your show? Did you interview him?
No, we never interviewed him. I think he was in a different space at the time. I think we did have some conversations, but I think he was in a different space. I think he was going through some stuff at the time. But Joseph Stonestreet, for those that don't know, somebody has unearthed a Joseph Stonestreet recordings with Teddy Riley, and the world of music collectors has gone potty at the moment. They've all gone mad. It was recorded, I would say, sometime between 93 and 94. And wow. To say music collectors and of that era are excited would be an understatement.
Yeah, somebody just sent me the link of it uploaded on YouTube, where a track with the two of them. And for those who've worked with him or known him, they swear by it that they probably, even Diesel doesn't come close to how he was. And he I think that's I Want to Make Love. I think they said he didn't write it down. He was just ad-libbing the entire song. So yeah, it's just amazing. Did you guys ever get to Future Records, Future Studios? Did you ever?
No, we didn't get to get out there. This would have been a little bit after that.
I think it was gone by that
Okay.
point, right?
It was gone. It was
Yeah.
gone. It was gone.
Okay.
It wasn't.
You got to mention the meeting of Andre Harrell. How did that happen?
So that was through Barry Michael Cooper. He was because he was still tight with Andre, and he was the one who told us he's going to be here at this event at this time, and make time for him. So when we finally approached him, he was like, "You're the one talking to Barry." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And then we just had the interview on the steps, and I got to tell you, that was definitely like, yeah, if you had a stethoscope on my chest, like at that point, it would have been like gunk. It was like, man, this man right here, like he's basically the man. It's so crazy how, not to get controversial, but like I'll just say it, whatever. He's like the Russell Simmons of like New Jack Swing, but it's just crazy how some of these names you just kind of go, because like, whatever. But he was. I know Heavy D was actually rejected from Def Jam. I think Andre founded Uptown for Hev, because Hev and the whole he was more of a Harlem hip hop guy, and they didn't they were like, he's too R&B for us. So Andre's like, fine, whatever. Let's make Uptown. Let's have our own aesthetic. So meeting Heavy D, that I feel blessed to have had happened. I'm pretty sure that might have been a Vij orchestration, because you knew.
Oh, you met Heavy D?
Man.
I
met him in 2009.
You weren't going to go.
Yeah, because that was.
I forced you. I said,
that was already towards the end.
Calm down, man. Just, you got to go. You got to see Heavy D.
I didn't feel like going because life was getting too real, and I'm like, hey, I gotta pay these bills, man. And he just like, dude, you will regret this. And of course, like, I went, and it was nice. Like, I wanted to get the interview, but he was like, we'll do it some other time. And that of course sucks, obviously, because we can't now. But meeting him, the thing I remember, which is so odd and so random, was when I shook hands with him. It was like my hand was swallowed by his hand. His hand was like the size of a ham, dude. His hands were enormous. He's a big dude. Like, he's bigger than you imagine. If you imagine him big, just think bigger. Like, he's a big dude. So that's why I remember. I was like, man, anyways, that's that. I also gotta say one more thing really quick. Interviewing MC Brains. That's another like video I wish I had. And I think what happened to it was, again, I was already in that mode. VJ alluded to it, where I was like, okay, I need to focus on other things now. Like, this is like not taking care of business. So I was like, okay, take the tape, do your editing, send it back to me. Never got it. And I wish I had actually just kept the tape myself, because that was a really good interview. We learned a lot about Michael Bivins, the East Coast family, why he kind of went quiet. I think he even sang like that song he did, Boys to Men. Like, it was a great interview, and I to this day wish I had it, because that was fun.
Who was recording? So who did you swap and say, okay, VJ is going to interview this time, and then Andrew, and then who had a video camera?
It depended where we were, really. I mean, like, I'm Europe based, so I'm a Londoner. So if there's something happening on this side of the world, I would be there. If I was in America and different places, then I would do it. But then Andrew was in the hub. He was in New York City, or he was with me, whatever was practical. There was no ego there. It wasn't like I should do it, you should do it. And speaking about egos, I wanted to say something about the Andre Harrell interview. I would like to say that me and Andrew, me and Knight were equally excited to be meeting him, because it's Andre Harrell. He's the man that started Uptown Records. And when the interview came about, we knew each other enough, and we were comfortable with each other enough to say, hey, listen, we're just doing this together. Yeah. And there was nothing. We just knew our body language, everything. We were in sync, and it was amazing. Yeah. And that was magic. And when you've got somebody that you're working with, where you get on with on that level, where And don't get me wrong. If I'm doing something that Andrew doesn't like, he's calling me out on it, and vice versa. If he does something that I don't like, I'm saying, "Hey, buddy, I don't think so." But we had mutual respect and understanding, and I think that was very important.
But where are the videos then?
Oh, they're on YouTube, but they're like all like 15 years old and stuff. So maybe what we can do afterwards is I can like send over to you, and then you can post as you wish. But they're all there. They're all on either the NJS4E YouTube channel or the Night 77 YouTube channel. But they're all there.
Mm-hmm. Apart from MC Brains,
yeah, because
I didn't even know you'd done that, man.
Right? That was like tour. Yeah, like I don't have a lot of regrets. And I actually choose to live my life. I always ask myself, what will you regret more if I'm at any crossroads? And I always move away from the thing I regret more. Right. So that's why I don't have a lot of them, but that's one of them because yeah, I think Brains is kind of underrated. I think that was actually a pretty good album. Like, but anyway, the other thing about it, I got to say, though, is even the production values, like that's kind of embarrassing to me now. It's like when you look at those old videos, like it's old. Like you can just see that it's not like sharp. The audio isn't on point. Like there's so if I could go back in time, like again, there would be a microphone, an external mic for the Bobby.
We'd do things very differently. We'd do things very differently.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But I also think that we were maybe 10 years too early. I think to your point earlier, like, yeah, had we done this later, yeah.
You guys were the first to interview Tammy Lucas, and I would say that of all the interviews I've done, the first time I interviewed Tammy, I was pinching myself to say, "Is this real?" Because I'd never really seen her before. Because she didn't do interviews, no pictures, and so when I did interview her, I was like, "Wow, this is." But you guys had sat down with her. So, I mean, I'm doing mine on Zoom, but you guys had her in the room. Yeah. What was that like? Just say, this is the famous Tammy Lucas that if you're a New Jack Swing fan, she was pretty much the queen of everything. She was, back from Peace of Goodbye Love and stuff. What was that like? How did she agree to that?
We were in touch. I think the thing is, like, it's about how you approach things. Like these artists, they all knew it was about the music, and it was about networking and connecting people. That is the key, and that was what NJS Forever was. A big part of NJS Forever was helping people connect with the people that they needed to, and Tammy knew that. So it was a great interview. She's also had me and my wife Monica. We've been around to hers for lemon. She's made this lemon drink, amazing lemon drink at her place, and she's the loveliest person. And I think many people will agree. If there's one artist that we wish could have come out with an album or come out with more music, it's Tammy Lucas. That voice. I mean, it's. I just don't understand it. It's like one of those frustrations. In the interviews, she would have brought it up with you as well, the reasons why things didn't play out for her, and it's sad. It's a sad story, and just something that we'll never get to see, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pharrell just came out with his biopic stuff, and he didn't even mention her in the.
That is fascinating because Tammy Lucas's apartment in Virginia was Neptune's HQ. Now, if Pharrell hasn't mentioned that, you've missed a big part of your history because Tammy Lucas really looked after those boys, and Pharrell knows that.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, we there's always a debate because I know that we part of what we're going to do this evening is look at some of our top 10 favorite albums. There's a debate between what albums contribute. I can't even know the words as New Jack Swing, constitute as New Jack Swing, and what constitutes as an R&B album. But for you guys who started this forum, and like the three of you, Stevie, you two included, what would you say would qualify to be a New Jack Swing album? for me, it used to be if Teddy did half the production and that's it. But anyway, that's But for you guys, go ahead.
This is definitely a Stevie question.
Oh, come on.
This is a you question. No, because you were like your explanation of what New Jack Swing was always so much wider, and I was like, man, Stevie's nailed it, man. Stevie, it's all you, bro.
I was put it down to the production sound and the way certain sounds were in the production, the hi-hats, the way they were. I can't remember, but a lot of it, the tempo and the production sounds, and the way a track is made and the way it swings. During the 70s, 80s, you got disco, which was straight. It was a straight 4/4 beat, and then Teddy come along and then swung. He got his drum it and swung it, and I always look for that on the albums. Like when I've compiled my top 10, it's like I look at the Keith Sweat album, the first Keith Sweat album, I think, how many New Jack Swing tracks are actually on that album if we really break it down? Not many. So again, on the first Keith Sweat album, how many tracks are actually production-wise swinging before you all put Make It Last Forever in your top 10s? And with I'm playing devil's advocate there.
With that in mind, I feel the same about Any Heartbreak. Like Any Heartbreak's a perfect album, but then
how many tracks actually
New Jack?
Yeah,
it makes my top 10 easily. It just does. But then is it New Jack Swing? I don't know. And I'm not saying anything, but it's a interesting discussion.
Yes, and that's I think it's okay to have everyone like kind of have their own opinion, so to speak. But I think mine is looser. It's more about the era. So if it was hip hop R&B, if there's that kind of like hip hop edge, but it's R&B and it's young sounding, and it came out between, for me, I'm really big on the years 88 to 92. And I know in Europe, I feel like it went beyond 92. I might go like 94, 95. But at least in the US, for me, it was 88 to 92. That to me is what constitutes it. So when people say, oh, Poison by BBD is not a New Jack Swing album, I mean, I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's what you think. Like, that's cool. But this top 10 is it's my list. It's personal. And there may be things on here that is not considered an NJS. But to me, if it's from the era and it's hip hop and R&B kind of hybrid together, it's a New Jack album. It's from the era, basically.
Oh, so we're saying it stopped at 92. So the Blackstreet album just missed the cut.
So it's funny you say that. So I actually, and this is my own headcanon, okay? But like, to me, 93 and 94, but really 93 is like what I call like the post New Jack era. So, and I almost call it like maybe swing beat. So when I think of like 93, I think of like intro is almost straddling hip hop soul to me. But like Me to You, like for example, there was like that group, I consider that post New Jack Swing. Or I also even call it the Attack of the Clones, because that's when you had like Silk, Shy, UNV, Portrait. There were so many artists coming out. It was almost a glut. And I consider that the post New Jack era. So then by 94, 95, the tempos are slower, the combat boots come on, and it's more about swaying. Then to me, it's more hip hop soul. And that's where I consider even the first Blackstreet album, even though a lot of people say, no, that's New Jack Swing. Someone called No Diggity New Jack Swing. I don't know, man. But again, I'm not with that personally, but I've seen people say
New Jack Swing, man.
Thank you. Oh, one more thing. And then there's also, I think ever since like NJS4E kind of came and went as a website, now I'm seeing people say, oh, Control by Janet is the first New Jack Swing album. And I'm just kind of like, what? But it's like, no, man. Or Nasty is the first New Jack Swing song. Yes, I get it. It was like these hip hop beats, but to me, I'm more inclined to say, I Want Her or Just Got Paid or even Groove Me, like as far as like being like the nucleus, like the declaration of the movement. But anyway, I'm talking a lot now, but
No. Plus, we have to be. I know it's a tough one. I think I've heard Marley Marl say, "Well, I did tracks with Heavy D and the boys first, so I was the first one to be doing New Jack Swing." I'm thinking, well, it's not really about the production. It was something about what Teddy was doing and his sound that caught Barry Michael Cooper's ear, and he gave it that name, and I think that's why people start to think it was. So yeah.
And Justin has just brought up a couple of producers that should be mentioned: Dave Jam Hall and Vincent Hubert, and 3 boys from Newark, including Ike Lee, Keama Griffin, and the rest of them, Ben Garrison, etc. They all need to be included in a conversation. Soul Convention, incredible producers. Oh my God, Soul
The
Convention.
characters,
Troy Taylor and Charles Farrar, Tim and Bob, Dallas Austin.
Denzel Foster, Thomas McElroy, even out in the West Coast, because they did the whole Tony, and Vogue stuff.
That's one of my favorite quotes. I can't remember which one of the On Vogue ladies said it, but they claimed that Foster and McElroy were the creators of New Jack Swing, and I'm like, no, they weren't. I love their sound. Foster and McElroy, everything they did during that era, fantastic. Everything. They're just brilliant. But to say that they'd created New Jack Swing is a little unfair, I think.
Before we go into the albums, is it possible for each of you just to give your thoughts about Teddy Riley? Just, because I don't know if he woke up and thought, I'm going to change music and stuff and create this genre that would really shape the world. But, it'd be great just to hear, you can start with you, VJ, then Andrew, then Stevie, just to characterize what your thoughts are on Teddy.
Teddy he's the hub. Everything is spawned off Teddy Riley. To not give Teddy Riley props for his contribution to music generally, and New Jack Swing in particular, would be an insult. Teddy is the proverbial man in that context. And without Teddy, that sound wouldn't have become what it did. There might have been some other variation of it, but Teddy made everything, all those cogs fit together. And Teddy is Teddy.
Yeah. Andrew.
Teddy is blessed. He's the golden child. He is the nucleus of New Jack Swing. I think that he actually, believe it or not, even though people who know Teddy will say his name, I still feel I get a certain almost like underrated vibe, though, in terms of just like in the general music pantheon. It's like you almost have to know what New Jack Swing is to know that name. But I think at the same time, he did so much, just as a kid in the St. Nick projects, like making like My Prerogative in a bedroom, and just being so musical and being able to incorporate so many other styles, but then make it his own. He was a movement. He was a golden goose. He is absolutely someone who, had he not been around, the whole musical landscape and maybe even pop culture would be different than it is now. So he had a lot to be proud of.
Yeah.
Two things. If I hadn't discovered Teddy and his sound, I don't think I'd be the fanatical music collector that I am today, because once you started collecting the tracks that he produced, you're constantly looking for the one that you don't have, the next thing, and it's an endless search. So, secondly, I'm going to go back to the forum, because we had a member on the forum who was probably fanatically the biggest fan of Teddy Riley ever, called guy in South Korea called Mish98. Let's not forget him. I don't think I'll ever forget the fanaticism of Mish98. He was Teddy Riley's biggest fan, bigger than VJ.
That's a hard thing to do. Yeah.
So I mean, the reason why halftime chat is here is because for you, Namdi, and I know it's still a holy grail for you. You want that Teddy interview. I know you still want that interview, and and hopefully one day we'll get it for you. But it's VJ, Andrew Knight, myself, we've all met him. We've all had time with him. So it's just you that's left, and I think everybody that's associated.
I want to say something really quick though, Namdi. You've done really well. Like I was skimming your stuff, and like I see you talk to, I think it was Coco of SWV. Like, there's a lot of artists that you've talked to. So if you don't mind, like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey, like real quickly. I know that you're the one doing the interview, but I'd love to hear your journey with this music.
Oh, by the way, Namdi, this is what Andrew does. This is what he does, the old switcheroo, man.
That's the switcheroo. You know, it actually started with Teddy. It started with hearing My Fantasy, and you know, in the 80s, there was three people that I didn't always got. It was Michael Jackson, Steven Spielberg, and Teddy Riley. Anything by those three, I had to watch, I had to buy. And it started when one of my friends said, "Oh, you know the guy who sang My Fantasy? He also did this track, Just Got Paid, and he also did that." And I was like blown away, like, oh, before you just listen to, I used to just listen to a song and like it. I never linked the two. So I never knew, oh, I need to start watching a Spielberg film because he did E.T., he did Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh, anything he does, I need to watch. And that happened with music. So I was obsessed with anything Teddy, anything he came out with, I'd listen to a track and says, even the Bobby album, I was like, yep, I'm sure he did this, but he did that track. So that was how my passion for music was just Teddy. So all my friends would know that I was so obsessed with Teddy, and that's all I would buy. Didn't even care for anything else other than his stuff. So that has always been my part. And I think the channel itself, I think it started really as a chance to say, okay, maybe let me just hear some of the stories and just listen to these guys, the backstage, because I'm a therapist. So just to hear about their journeys and stuff like that. And even though I've probably interviewed everyone around Teddy, apart from Teddy himself, sometimes it's like one of those soap operas where you miss Mr. Snuffleupagus. Only a certain genre of people will know that's like Snuffy comes in and then he goes out and like, oh, you just missed him. And I think you still need to keep that drama going for it to be continued until next time. So, which is perfectly fine. But for me, as I said, New Jack Swing was Teddy, and anything else was just imitation. That's how it used to be. If he mixed it, if he just just featured in it, that was enough for me. I need to get it and get the singles. So yeah, so that's why, as I said, back when I used to search Teddy Riley news, your site would come up, and I'm just like scrolling through, like, wow, look what's going. Okay, wow, he's done this, and and that was how I knew about you guys back in the day, just searching for stuff. I mean, I think there was an interview Ed Lover did with him, and I think on the forum he had the link to the actual audio, and probably one of the best interviews he's done, where Ed could talk about everything and he was just relaxed. And so being able to get all those things from your site, that's how I think Google will always say, oh, your top search was always on Teddy. So definitely that was definitely the connection for me.
But would you say, like you said something interesting there? You said if music came from Teddy Riley, that was the real deal, and if anybody else did it, it was imitation. Do you still feel that way? And when you listen to there's so many producers, incredible producers. Full Force deserves a mention. I mean, how good were they? The Louis Silas Jr. remix. Somebody mentioned Louis Silas a little while ago. Some incredible remixes during the New Jack era. So there's a lot of people that did some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it was always Teddy first, and then everyone else was second. Now, I will say that in the mid '90s, I was, it was almost like when I think, and Andrew mentioned it about when you talked about how gangster rap sort of kind of became so popular that it kind of put a shadow over New Jack and R&B. The biggest disappointment with the Blackstreet album was it was heavily influenced by the Chronic. It was, let's get the George Clinton type of samples and go that direction. And I think that it was I don't know if it was Interscope that says, look, that's where the money is, go this direction. I think that was when, and then Teddy then started, then it was the sort of bad boy sort of thing, oh, let's go this direction. So I think unlike Jimmy and Terry and LA and Babyface, who stayed in their lane and continued to just be themselves. I think that's when I got disappointed with Teddy in post '93, post the Bobby album, which I think was probably one of his finest masterpieces. Just that album was amazing, and I think he was in his element. Did the Dangerous, did the Bobby album, did the Rex and Effects album, and he was just on fire. And I think that the even the Blackstreet album was good, but the sampling and stuff was too much influenced on West Coast, and I think it
I
disappointed
gotta
me a
jump
little
in.
bit.
Namdi, you just said something
Okay.
that so resonated with me, and that is, like, for me, there's an era when artists are creating or they're blazing, like they're setting the trends, and then they start following the trends. And to me, it's kind of sad to watch and see, but to me, it's obvious, and you just hit the nail on the head. You're right. Like, I feel like between 88, maybe even 86 to about 93, Teddy was setting the trends, and Jam and Lewis, for example, with songs like The Knowledge they're following Teddy, and even the NE remixes, like, we're following Teddy. But then by like 97, it's almost like Teddy's sounding a bit more like the Hitmen from Bad Boy. And to your point, that high-pitched G-funk you hear on that opening of even the Blackstreet album. So again, not knocking people for like kind of keeping up with the trends, but there is something to be said for setting versus following. And I think you just, man, like I'm just like, yes, that's crazy that you just said that, because I felt it.
Yeah, and as a massive fan of his, it was hard. We had Miller. What's the guy's? The Miller. Yeah, and then he had Not a Butter, and the videos, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Stuff with Method Man, Party and Bullshit. It just didn't. It was like, wow, what's going on? And people who used to be under him, like the Neptunes or Rodney, they were all just going, just passing by. And I'm thinking, well, these guys will just, Rodney would talk about how, just look at what Teddy's producing and stuff. And I don't know. So it was, and my final thing is that I never wanted Teddy to be part of Blackstreet, because I thought that if he was part of a group, he would be distracted. If he was just in a studio making the music, he would just have to have the space. But when he joined Blackstreet, David Miller, when he joined Blackstreet and they had to tour, and it was just, that was when he started losing the edge, because Jimmy and Terry were always in the studio. Babyface, he'll do an album, but he always had LA, and he was able to be focused. And when he did Blackstreet, I wasn't happy. When he was featuring Teddy, the Baby Be Mine, I was like, okay, that's cool. But when he came out the album, as much as I enjoyed him on it, I just thought, man, I just felt that this was it. This was going to be, this was not going to be great in the long term. And that was it. And, because I just wanted him to always to win. He was my favorite. He still is. I always wanted him to win, always be on top, always be the innovator. And I just thought it was just.
I've cried once when a group broke up, and it was when Guy broke up. I physically cried.
Wow.
I couldn't believe. I love Guy so much. I was like, what's wrong with these people? Get together, man. I was distraught. It was not good, and because I was then keen to see what Teddy would come up with, and Joseph Stonestreet on Baby Be Mine on CB4 was extraordinary. Joseph Stonestreet, that voice, my God.
Yeah.
We know some of the stuff that happened and why Joseph Stonestreet was removed from the group. But all of that stuff aside, I think Blackstreet was not all it could have been. It had Joseph Stonestreet stayed. Don't get me wrong. Phenomenal. The first album was phenomenal. Was it good as The Future? Not in my opinion, but that's my opinion. But still a very good album. And I think their albums got worse afterwards. They weren't bad. They're all very good albums, but they weren't the same. And,
Yeah.
Wait, so you didn't like Wizzy Wow?
that's your favorite song? Isn't that your ringtone?
I think so. Or sorry.
I mean, Stevie, do you think if Teddy was not in Blackstreet, music-wise, he could have still been on still a force as a producer, or do you
He
think
could always
maybe I was
be a
a bit
force as a
over
producer,
exaggerating?
but I think he's better off in a group. Yeah,
Oh, you think so?
he tried the solo thing and it didn't. Virgin Records signed him for a solo album. They never put that album out. If you've heard the album, you know why it didn't come out. Quite obvious why. We won't get into that, but I think I look at what's going on in music now. He could be producing for a girl act or another guy act or something. The guy can do anything, can't he, with a keyboard and a drum machine?
Yeah. No, I didn't want him to be an artist. I just wanted him just to produce, and then even if he came out with a Teddy R album with Teddy featuring Tammy and featuring, that he has features.
Has he
not
made
him
enough money
singing
now
and
that he
stuff
doesn't
like
need to produce music anymore? I don't know. Has he got such a personal wealth that it's like a boxer, innit? Boxer, who's like Anthony Joshua. He's made all his money. He doesn't need to box anymore.
I wonder if the Dangerous album is doing it for him. I mean, I'm sure Dangerous is still residuals, I'm sure, coming in.
Yeah, I don't think Teddy, I think he Gene took a big chunk of his cash and of stuff, but I don't think he needs to get a job or stuff like that. And because he could be producing continuously, but I just think that when I see how Jimmy and Terry, even though they're phenomenal, when you think about the diversity of artists they've worked with and how they've kept their music and their sounds consistent from decade to decade, and the Babyface as well. I think I think that was when because Teddy got nominated for a Grammy Producer of the Year just on the Bobby album. They didn't even include the Dangerous stuff because Michael co-produced it with him. But that was just that level. And I've heard about how Louis Sowell was just telling everyone else, man, have you seen what they're doing on the Bobby album? Just the level he went up to, and I just did not know. I just thought the being in the group was just, it took it away from him. When he was in the studio with Gene Griffin, put him in the studio and he was just banging out tracks and stuff like that. I mean, he was just,
do you guys remember this conversation that we had on the forum? And the conversation was about, was GR Productions mute sound, was that better than post GR Productions? So Teddy by himself, when he was with, Teddy wasn't by himself. He had people like Spragg who deserves a shout out. People like Mucho, Bernard Bell, obviously lots with him as well. But GR Productions, so Gene and Teddy together, or Teddy by himself? What was a better sound?
Gosh, that's a whole other podcast debate.
we may have to do this.
I did try to ask him that question when I interviewed him for 10 minutes, or 10 minutes with him. One of the first questions was, how did the GR sound that you had in the beginning morph into the sound that you had, say, by 92 with Tammy Lucas? Because there was a real change in the sound. I felt he'd refined the sound by 92. I thought maybe he was using different bits of kit, but he'd really nailed it. It was so refined, and he perfected it by then.
Hey. But what about 91 when he came out with the stuff on House Party? I Like Your Style.
Far more up tempo. He started off the tempo.
Come on, man. I Like Your Style and Radio.
I Like It Radio. Not that time.
That's what I mean. He'd refined. He's perfected it by then. It was perfected.
I think when he left Gene, and because Gene was just, who was it? I think the guys from Basic Black, KB, were just saying that watching him in the studio just knocking out tracks, whoever wants, what's the guy? I'm Real. Who was
James
he?
Ingram.
James. I never liked that. I was thinking, James, this is not for you. JT Taylor, just you want them, you want the tracks here, just take. And I'm like, no. But when that 91, I like his style and Ready or Not, and then he did the stuff with Dangerous, and I think he was just, he was just at 90 with Dave Hall. Sorry, not Dave Hall, Dave Way. The sound was so crisp and stuff. He was just, yeah, that's yeah, yeah. But another debate when we look at the catalog and the impact he had then after he left Gene. Yeah, that would be definitely be another discussion stuff. But let us look at our list, because it's a debate. But so for guys who are just joining in, VJ put out a SOS to the forum to see what everyone had on their list. It's now on Facebook, and it's interesting to see what how you rank their top 10.
So, how do you want? How are we going to do today then? So, do you want me to share everything?
I think we should do our 4 top 10s, and at the end let VJ do the big reveal of the whole
scientific results.
And it is scientific. I've as always, I've used a weighted average, so it makes sense. So if somebody has put something at 10, you get 1 point, and going up to 1, it's 10 points. So depending on how you put it, I've had people send me a top 20. People send me a top 25. Anything below 11 gets 0 points, because only top 10. Not fair.
How many submissions did you get?
I think about 15.
Okay.
So some shout outs.
So this is like Eurovision and the UK are getting 0 points.
Exactly.
Let's start off with let's start off with Knight. What enters your top 10 album and the reasons for it?
All right. Okay. Before I do that, I wanted to acknowledge the comments. I wish there was a way for me to respond, because some of the comments are amazing. They're dope. Some of them are hilarious. Someone mentioned Fruits are all up in the videos, like the Suge Knight reference. I also saw Schwarzenegger. I haven't seen that name in
haven't seen
that. It's been 2 decades, I think.
Long time.
I think you're the only black dude I know from Ireland. That's crazy, but I had to acknowledge that. But anyway, your comments are fire, everyone. So thank you for that. Okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna. Do you want me to go? I'd rather go number 1 and number 10, because I feel like I can't defend.
We'll all do 10 to 1.
All right. So it's all okay. Whatever. All right. So number 10, I actually had Ralph T's debut, self-titled, just because you're going to find out there's a pattern. I am heavily New Edition biased, but I think it was a solid listen, and that's number 10. Number 9.
Stop. 10. We'll go with 10. We all do 10 each, then 9.
Okay.
We go around in a circle. You'll get it eventually. Any other reason why you've got Ralph Tresvant at number 10?
Well, I mean, just compared to the other 9, it was like you're not ahead of them. So there's nothing more profound than that. It's just like you just made the cut.
What were your standout
wait. Honorable. I say this. Honorable mentions. I have to say I had Cool Eye Harmony.
We'll do that later. He has got to see the script, has he? Tell what were your favorite? What were your standout tracks on the Ralph Tresvant album?
Oh, come on! Sensitivity, Do What I Gotta Do. Oh, I Love You, Just for You, and All Right Now. And then, of course, I'm breaking the rules. Whatever. It's the special edition version of the album, or the extended one. So, but let's go with the original. Okay, All Right Now. These weren't even these were the bonus tracks. So, All Right Now, I Love You, Just for You, Sensitivity, Do What I Gotta Do, and Stone Cold Gentleman's cool, but it's not the one that really pushed it over the top. So yeah.
Right, then that's at your number 10. VJ, what's at your number 10?
My number 10. I look at all of these and all the ones that I haven't put in, and I want to change it up already, but I'm going to say as it is. My number 10 is Bobby Brown's Bobby album.
Okay.
Wow.
And I'm gutted to put it in so low, because it's perfect. It's such a good album. It's so good. That Joseph Stone Street again. Can I mention his name again? He's all over that.
Yeah,
Omar Chandler is all over that. Marsha McClurkin, Mary Brown, all of those vocalists, Jean-Marie Horvat, all over that album.
Yeah.
What were your favorite tracks on it?
Yeah.
Favorite tracks are, for me, the one that hit me when I first heard it and it just blew my mind was Two Can Play That Game. Not that K-Class rubbish. No, that's not bad either. But it's a different party. Two Can Play That Game. Teddy Riley's production is ridiculous on that. Absolutely killer. And all of the ballads, the contrast
College
between
Girl.
College Girl, but LA and Babyface primarily, and Teddy Riley absolutely nailed it. Brilliant.
Any cassette singles you can show us from the album? I don't know if you got any cassette singles.
Hold on. Bobby Brown. What do we have? Bobby Brown. We have this thing.
Hey, see, look at that. He still sealed that as well. The long box.
Bobby.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. What about you, Stevie?
No, we'll go with yours. Go with yours at number 10.
Like Andrew, mine is Ralph. The debut album. It's yeah, I mean, I like the stuff we did with Girl I Can Control It.
Yeah. Love Takes Time.
Yeah, I mean, there was it was it was just I just think it was I think if he'd come out first, it would have made a difference, but the pressure was on because BBD and Johnny came out with some heavy albums, and then and I think Sensitivity to me was just almost said, oh, okay, no problem. We just bought the album. I think there were some stronger tracks on the album that probably could have really given it this. So he should have come out first and with a more banging track, and then Sensitivity second, because he was probably one of the better albums after the Johnny one. So, but that Ralph album is.
Did you know, guys?
I am so sorry. I just gotta say really quick.
Track on the album.
Yes. Well, he wrote All Right Now. I forgot She's My Love Thing. That song, I think, should have been a video. Cat one.
Can I mention two songs on that album that definitely deserve some
Love?
to be acknowledged? The two Carl West tracks. Oh my God, how good are they?
Yeah, I can't control it. Ooh, whoa, whoa. Yeah. I think that could have been that was a proper New Jack. It could have been a first single. I just think he needed to come out with something heavy. Then Sensitivity would have taken it, but he should have come out before BBD and Johnny. I think they were dominating. So by the time he came out, it was like, but it was New Edition for life. Stevie,
I think when I look at this top 10, and I'm sure you guys, especially you, VJ, you might have gone through this yourself. It's a contentious with like what albums you used to play a lot back then that were your favourites versus what you're still playing now 30 odd years later. What do you still play now? And it's like, and it keeps, I keep chopping, I can chop and change it every week. You know, I can't believe some of the stuff I've left out, but number 10, bit of a shocker for some of you, but I love this album.
Yes! Yes! I love that album!
Underrated albums ever. I know Nam's like, oh, what are you talking about, Willis? What are you talking about, Willis?
It was a Bobby album
from start to finish. It's a masterpiece. You know, when we had one of the guys on, I told him, didn't I? Was it who's it on?
Yeah.
I said this album's an absolute underrated masterpiece. The way it starts, the way it ends, and the whole story it tells. But I just think it's a great album.
What's that track that's on there? It was the precursor to Bobby Brown. That's the way love is. That's the way love is.
She blows my mind. Or
blows
I'm not
my-
gaming. But those two songs sound very Bobby. You know, I'm like,
Demetrius
that's
shit.
what I said.
Yeah. They're both Demetrius shit.
But I just think this is what this is an incredible. It doesn't get it's props for me.
is it weird to say that's like, sorry, that's my number 8. So I spoiled the surprise.
Stop it! Don't give it away.
Stick to the system, man. What's wrong with you?
Okay, all right. I'm gonna reel it in. Calm down.
He's too excited.
Okay. What's your number 9 then?
Oh, me now? Oh,
Hey, we're back to you.
Yeah.
Now.
all right. Sorry, guys. All right. Johnny Gill, self-titled. I think it's a very solid album. Gotta give props to Give My All to You. That song is just, to me, like a relative of Boyz II Men. I mean, there's really not a terrible track on that album. Sometimes I'll skip like Wrap My Body Tight, but if I'm in the mood, I'll listen to it. I mean, it's just like the whole thing from start to finish is great. Rub You the Right Way, both versions are sick. But yeah, no, that Johnny album, you could hear the money on that album. Like I can tell, like he had the biggest budget between Jam and Lewis and Face, and then of course Randy Rand coming out from the rear with like those killer tracks. Let's Spend the Night. It's a perfect album. So that's my number 9.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a top 10 on that album 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was very hard to really pick in their order because it was just such an amazing album, really a perfect album. I didn't really like Rub You the Right Way, but it grew on me later on. But
something about that album that
go ahead.
I wanted to put it in, but then I thought, is it New Jack Swing?
Exactly.
Other than that remix,
it's hard to say that. How many New Jack? I mean, for me, it's my out of all the New Edition albums we've done a previous podcast. Is it number 1? It's my favorite album, but it didn't make my top 10. It's killing me to say that because I love the album.
This album, that album, Johnny Gill's first album, the Motown album, first Motown album, that is probably one of my most listened to albums ever. Yeah. And Giving My All to You was my first dance with my wife. That's the song. So it means a lot to me, that album. So I feel like I suck for not adding it into.
You know why? Because like, how many New Jack tracks are on it? 2 or 3 at the most. Rub You the Right Way,
only the remix,
tight, and possibly Fair Weather Friend. But is that a New Jack? I don't know. It's a great record.
About that album again, like Stevie, at one of the parties, you played Rub You the Right Way, the LP mix, and I loved you for it. I said, Stevie, how it was so cool to hear the Jam and Lewis version, because as much as I love the Eddie F and Novell version, hearing the original version in that kind of setting was incredible. So thank you for that. Probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but it was amazing.
Right, VJ, number 9.
Okay.
My number 9 is, I don't know if you can see this, but it's Peaceful Journey by Heavy D and the Boys.
Wow.
I wanted to put Heavy D and the Boys album in, and I think one for Is It Good to You? That version, if you listen to that at full volume, I remember hearing that in 1991 in a friend's car, and he had the best sound system, and we were deaf. We listened to that for 30 minutes straight, and we couldn't hear for ages after that. Is It Good to You? And another underrated song off that is Sister Sister with Marley Marl production. Now, Marley Marl doesn't get enough props for his New Jack Swing productions, but that boy knew how to turn a beat, New Jack Swing beat. Incredible. And Heavy D and the Boys, Peaceful Journey. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I like what they did with Heartbreak. Yeah. I like what they did with the title cut and with Jodeci singing on it. Epic 6 minutes. Epic 6 minutes for that, me.
And which track is Kenny Green's on there? I was like, what? Kenny Green's on that album, right? On one of the cuts. Yeah, I think he's on. I think he's on. Is It Good to You remix? On the remix.
I can't remember. Namdi, what was your number 9?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about albums that I cherish, it was definitely Peaceful Journey. It was, and I think we talk about Marley Marl, but goodness, I've forgotten his name now. Darren Lighty probably did most of that production because most of the stuff, even the stuff they did with TLC, the TLC. Yeah, so Darren Lighty says, he was doing all the stuff, but Marley was, took the credits and all this stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if he and his brothers, the Flex, did that production on and stuff. But yeah, for me, that the Peaceful Journey was, not just the two Teddy tracks, but yeah, the whole album. It brings memory, and yeah, sadly, it was an album remembering Treble T. Roy. But yeah, What Is Wrong with Our Future with Johnny Gill, You're on My Mind with Casey and JoJo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let It Rain, Let It Rain, Let It Rain. I can still remember being where I was as a kid just when that album came out. So yeah, that's
How
my
did you
number
guys
9.
feel about Now That We Found Love?
It's cool.
I liked it, but it was like, is it a house track? Is it New Jack? Aaron Hall's on it. I really should like it. I thought it was a weird one.
Yeah, it should have been Heavy in the Boys featuring Guy, which I thought would have been a good way of really promoting it. But I think it was their biggest track. It was a big global hit. It's a commercial track. It was how to sell or release the album and open the door for the other
I
stuff.
think it was Teddy looking at the UK because dance music was exploding in the early 90s. And I think that's why he came out with Her, and he came out with Now That We Found Love, which were both, appeal to the dance market as opposed to the New Jack Swing market. So I think that was Teddy's one eye going, yeah, I can make this dance house music as well. Here you go.
Yeah.
Whether you liked it
Hope
or
you guys
not,
are
that's
looking
up
at
for
the
debate.
text.
Personally, it grew on me. I appreciate it now. Appreciate now them far more than what I did back then. That's what I'll say.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
I hope you're looking at Big Mike was talking about Mind, and I think Stevie, you sent me that. Yeah,
That's a great album.
yeah,
That's
some good
But
ones.
people
Yeah,
have voted for Mind. Surprisingly,
Yeah.
like a lot more than I thought.
yeah.
Whoever mentioned that, they said it should have an honourable mention. It's more than an honourable mention. A lot of people put it in their top
Yeah,
10.
Big Mike. Yeah. What about you, Stevie? What's number 9?
Belle Biv DeVoe, Poison. Just for my memories of
Okay.
going, go to school, walking to school in the morning with a Walkman playing this over the summer at the time. Played it every morning, my walk to school. So it's like I say, it's one of them albums that I played over and over back then. I think, as I've said in previous podcasts, some of the lyrics now leave a lot to be desired. They haven't aged very well, but I still love this album cover. I still love this album. Great memories of it. And is it a New Jack album? Well, Poison's a New Jack track. Probably I'm sick to death of hearing it, but again, it was groundbreaking for the, because obviously they hooked up with Public Enemy's producers, Hank Shotley and the Bomb Squad. But you've got to have this album in your collection if you're into New Jack Swing. Can't avoid it, really, can you?
When this podcast came about, I wanted to know whether remix albums were allowed. I didn't add them. So, but if I did, UBBD Boot City would make my top 10. How good is that album? The remix album is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, somebody put Bobby Brown's key. Was it the key of B? Yeah, I mean, I think the issue with the reason why I never really go with the remixes and stuff because, I mean, if you did stuff around remixes, yeah, but okay. Andrew, what's your number 8?
My number 8, as I spoiled earlier, but I won't do it again, is the Deepa album by Troop. I think that Stephen Russell, as a producer, killed it. I think it's a sprawling tapestry of sound. It starts off with just the gospel-y, Want to Keep You Next to Me. Set Me Free by Chucky Booker is just goodness. That should have been a single. The ballads on there, like whether you're talking about The Sweet November, which was a hit, and the remix was one of my holy grails that I found thanks to the internet. Thank God. But then you've got stuff like Deepa, you've got My Heart Belongs to You. I think it's called, or no, that's Jodeci, but there's a John song on there. I mean, it's just like Stephen Russell, like as a producer, I think is someone who was also burgeoning and, anyway, he just has a great sound. And Alan and Steve's voice together, they were kind of like not quite Johnny and Ralph, but they had a very complimentary sound. Alan was more buttery. Steve was more crisp. What happened, I think, at the end of the day was Atlantic pulled the plug on the album and the promotion because something happened with Busted Records or something. So it was an album that was sabotaged by industry politics because it's a damn good album, totally underrated. And I'm sorry, I just got excited when Stevie talked about it because I don't think Troop really made it overseas. I think Troop was more of a US band. So props to Troop. Y'all are dope, and that album is absolutely in my top 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. Have you upset Justin's VJ? They say he's VJ's been smoking. I don't know what you would have said to upset somebody.
Probably referring to I don't know, was he referring to the Belle Biv DeVoe remix? I don't know. It's probably.
Did I say something? Did I upset him? No, he's fine. Justin's fine. He's just very passionate.
Okay.
He loves his music. He's in his lane. He knows I'm in mine lane. It's all good.
So what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Today.
On cassette.
Okay.
It's Today because it had Him or Me on there. Girl, I Got My Eyes on You. You Stood Me Up is such a brilliant song, and it's a proper New Jack album, and you've got the vocals of Fred Lee Drakeford, Big Bob, Bubba, and it's just magic. It's a brilliant album.
One of the first, like you say, it's one of the earlier Teddy Gene Griffin produced albums as well.
Proper GR production album. And like somebody mentioned earlier, they said, what did Gene do? I don't care what Gene did. The song
he got the work for Teddy.
The songs under GR Productions were amazing. They just brilliant.
Yeah, he just got the work for Teddy. My number 8 is The Revival.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how I don't know people would consider Tony as a New Jack crew, but they with Foster McLaren, they really had that sound. They had the vocals, and Damien said, it was the only group that they thought, would give them competition was, outside of New Edition was Tony, and maybe all 6 of them. I know there's the whole split between this Tony that the band of 6, or the 3 that were with Ralph, the 3 that were in front. But that album, to me, that just seeing that Yellow Album, Feels Good, and Rain in California, and Oakland Stroke, whatever it is, I just really love that album. And I bought the album, had it at the same time as Peaceful Journey and Vogue, Born to Sing, as well as a few others that was my first CD that I got when my dad gave me this portable Walkman. And I remember just listening to these 5 albums continuously, even with TLC's TLC trip, and just listening to them. So that's always a memory for me. So that is mine. Oh, did Andrew just disappear? Okay, he's back. Yeah, Stevie, what about yourself?
This is where I remember when we did I think we did this top 10 last year, and I have made a few changes. Someone made a comment about the N Touch album, which originally made number 10 last year, and I took it out, and I feel bad for taking it out. And I think one of the reasons I've took it out is because it's an album that I played a lot back then. I've not played it recently for years, and I've ended up putting an album in that I'm still playing today, and I can't leave this album out in the top 10. So good. It makes number 8. N Touch falls out. I feel bad for N Touch, but how can you not have this in your top 10? It's so long, didn't we, after Don't Be Cruel for another Bobby album? And I must admit, when I got this and I looked at it and I thought, what's happened to him? I mean, what's actually this is not the Bobby I remember, Yeah,
man.
But, it was much, I'd say, mature. Even his voice had slightly changed a bit due to, we won't go into that, but I think why his voice had changed. But you can't fault the songs and production. It's got to be number 8 for me. We've talked enough about this album anyway on the podcast.
So are we talking about our top 10 favorite albums on New Jack Swing?
New Jack Swing albums.
Okay, I just need to clarify because, there'll be shuffling if it's the top 10 albums I would shuffle around, but if it's New Jack Swing album, so yeah, okay.
We go to Andrew's number.
Andrew,
We're on
what-
number 7 now.
Yeah, and
Number
my
7.
disclaimer is I'm just saying New Jack Swing era albums.
Yeah,
This one might make some heads explode. Number 7 for me personally of the era is Tender Lover, Babyface. The reason why I chose that album is because that's also another solid one. I think you start off with, of course, It's No Crime. Then you got Tender Lover. And Troop sings background on that song, actually. But then,
yeah, I heard Steve talk
but then
about that.
there's this onslaught of ballads that to me are just ridiculous. I mean, you start off with like Whip Appeal, but I can't remember all of them in order. But As Soon as I Get Home, Where Will You Go, Sunshine, Given a Chance, like that album for me in the summer of '90 was when I was talking about, again, going sociological here, but like for me, it was all about Blackness being cast as positive, as debonair, as like just classy. And to me, that's what his album represented. And this is the guy who's behind Roni and Rock With Ya and Don't Be Cruel and Every Little Step and On Our Own. What? And then also all the Karen White records. So to me, it's like this was Babyface's like, yes, I'm a background kind of chill, mellow dude, but this is my manifesto. I am the tender lover. And it definitely made an impact on, again, my own kind of self-concept and who I wanted to grow up to be. So that's why Tender Lover, for me, of the New Jack era, makes number 7. And the Tender Lover remix is definitely New Jack Swing because Bobby's on it. All right.
Oh yeah, that's
Great.
yeah,
choice.
that's
Great choice.
hey, LA, get Bobby out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Yeah. VJ, what about you?
Mine is there's a guy called Shand who's also done a lot for NJS Forever with the parties, etc. He's a big fan of. So shout out to Shand wherever you are. And number 7 is shout. This is his favorite artist in the world. Keith Sweat, Make It Last Forever. And I know Stevie's thinking, what's it doing in there? Get it out of there. It's in there. It made it. And I think Something Just Ain't Right is just it's
a great album. It is a great.
Perfect.
You can't argue. It's a fantastic
perfect.
album.
And Something Just Ain't Right, and I Want Her done. You can if the album stopped after those 2 tracks, I would be okay. But then you got so much more. It's brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah.
You got the immortal Make
for
It Like.
me-
You got the title cut with our friend Jackie McGee.
Yeah,
You know, you got the classic.
You guys did that, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for me, my number 7 is Albie Shaw's debut album, In Effect Mode, and yeah, definitely, it had to grow. I mean, I love the production. I love what Cal did. The fact that he mentioned that Off and On was supposed to be Teddy did the original production, and he listened to what they did, and he just told him, he's got his own version, but they put out the Kyle West version. I wish I could hear what the Teddy's version was. And yeah, it was a massive album, massive for Uptown, and yeah, it was a great introduction to Kyle West and how he took New Jack Swing to another level.
I agree. That's a great album. Great choice. There's not enough room in a top 10. I would have. You want to put all of them in there.
Yeah, so it's top 10 just New Jack, so that's why I was able to move things around. Stevie.
I got to agree with you. Made my number 7 as well. But what I will say is the track "Rescue Me." I've never heard drum programming ever on what Kyle West did that day in the studio. It just blew my head away. The way all these we programmed the drums, they were all crashing and and obviously Night and Day wasn't New Jack, but that is the classic track, isn't it? I'm kind of going against what I originally said about New Jack on here anyway. Off on Your Own, If I'm Not Your Lover, Just a Taste of Loving. You know, again, it's just only 8 tracks long, but you can play it from start to finish. It's a classic.
And I think that's one of the things I missed about those late '80s is that they just had, the Thriller was about 8 tracks, Make It Last Forever was 8 tracks, that was 8 tracks. I mean, you stretch it if you go up to 10, but then that's when that's a massive difference. Then when you start putting 15 tracks and you're like, okay, I like, if the Bobby album was 8, it was about 9 tracks. Take away the LaFace productions, it would have been and all the ones at the end. So anyway, Andrew, what's your number 6?
So my number 6 is the first of what I would call the heavyweights, and that is by G.U.Y. Guy, the first album. I think that the first album.
Number 6. Got to give him a yellow card for this, BJ. Getting a yellow card for this.
He's banned.
Well, okay. Anyways, I'll just say that
you need to explain this one, Andrew. You need to explain this.
No, the album needs no introduction, clearly, but it's a classic. It's the nucleus of the movement. But yes, it is number 6. But that means that there's going to be some heavy hitters coming up after it, because again, I'm looking at the albums ahead of it. I think they're defendable. But anyway, yeah. I mean, what more do you need? I mean, you guys know the track list. You guys know I like, my fantasy. I think Spend the Night is my favorite one, actually, but only the remix, not the original. Oh, and then I already said I like. Oh, dude, you can call me crazy. I mean, stop it. Like, come on. The album is stacked. So there it is.
Yeah.
Is the video mix of Spend the Night available in any format?
I don't think so.
Stevie, guys, is it? I haven't seen it. It's just I couldn't. It's brilliant. That
video I know is that Future video with Dog Me Out. The Dog Me Out cover on it. That's the only video I've seen.
Ah, okay, all right.
Hold on, Spend the Night was on that. It was on that VHS tape.
No, not the video itself, but is there
audio?
The audio on any of the 12s or the CD singles or anything like that?
What makes you the video mix?
The video mix exactly as it is.
Ah, right.
I'm not sure it is. If anybody knows about it, please share, because or share where we can get it.
I just ripped it from the video and put it on my phone. That's how much I love
it. Smart.
What's your number 6?
Number 6 is
okay.
Go to See Forever My Lady.
Wow.
Is it still sealed? That it is.
Yeah, sealed. What's the point of opening those things? I've got it on like 72 other formats somewhere or the other. So yeah, no point doing that. But Forever My Lady, I think my favorite Jodeci album changes between Diary of a Mad Band and Forever My Lady, depending on my mood. And I think Forever My Lady is a perfect album. It's so good. A friend of mine recently, they took all of the vocals out and just had the instrumentals of all of the tracks off this album. Oh my God, listening to Come and Talk to Me instrumental without no vocals, insane.
Wow.
You and I and all of the Plaything instrumental, unbelievable.
So what's your favorite side? Because you forget, I think people forget that was an unbelievable New Jack Swing album, side B. When I was in Nigeria at the time, I didn't listen to the Forever My Ladies. I was listening to my phone and all those upbeat. That was what we were listening to, because I was like, is this Guy? I thought it was the new Guy album, because it was, just love the upbeats, and because vocally they were great. And then the production, even though Eddie F says it could have been even better if he had helped with that. So I was wondering, for you guys, do you see it as a New Jack Swing album, or do you see it as an R&B album with up-tempo
I see
tracks?
it's a New Jack album. I that's how I see it. And but I like the remixes off that album a lot. The hip hop soul remixes, fantastic. But it took me a while to really understand how good the album was from start to finish. I don't know. I didn't process Jodeci outside of the remixes and the singles until a little later. But when I did, I'm like, oh my God, this album is spectacular. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So that's my number 6.
I wish I could have put it in. My number 6 is an album I wish there was things around the production I wish could have been just slightly different. It would have then been a perfect album, because I mentioned at the start of the show that there were 3 people that I always used to admire. This was Spielberg, Michael Jackson, and Teddy. So the fact that 2 of them came together on one project was like, oh goodness, why can't I? But I think I heard Jimmy Jam talking about how Michael was constantly trying to chase that Rhythm Nation sound, and I think it meant that he took Teddy away from what Teddy was great at, to say, can we try and do this? And Teddy obliged. But I think there were some tracks that I thought, okay, I loved the there were some tracks. I mean, we all remember the time and stuff, but I just wish Teddy had a little bit more control over the 7 tracks he produced. But that's the Dangerous album. I think he did a great job. It was different and stuff, but I think there was something that could have made it even better. But that was still my
7 more Teddy
album.
tracks would have made it a lot better.
I think all of them, yeah, if he had just done the whole thing. But I think if he had just had, if he had just had his hand on it
with the original Mix of Joy on it, that would have made it sensational. Then would have gone into,
or somebody put your hand
realms then.
Yeah, somebody is it someone put your hand out or something? I can't remember what that other track was. Yeah, they said there was some better ballads that Teddy did that would have really taken it over the edge. But anyway, that's still my number 6, Dangerous.
Wow. I agree with VJ. That made my number 6. I remember the first single. I remember debating it with some guy that I knew. He does watch the channel from Manchester, but Gotta Love was the first single on it, that heavy New Jack track. And then when I heard It's All Right, I was like, oh my gosh. I think back then I played the up-tempo side more than I did the ballads, but now I play the ballad side more than I do the up-tempo side. But I'm just happy. I do like that formula, having one side swing track, the other side ballads. It works for me. So, but
definitely,
what a great album! Just it's a classic.
Yeah,
it is a classic, and executive produced by the guy that's in the news at the moment for all the wrong reasons, Mr. Puff Daddy. But go there. You know what I mean?
Andrew, what's your
before we
5?
go there, I just want to make an observation, and I could be wrong here, but I'm not sure I am. When the Jodeci album came out in the US market was pretty much, I would say, over the fast-paced side of the Jodeci album, and we only cared about the ballads. So it was almost like too late. That moment is past. So that's why it's interesting to hear you guys talk so much about how much you liked, like, the Gotta Love, It's All Right, all that. To me, it was all just one big blur. I didn't even really appreciate it until I saw videos of NJS4E parties in London where people are dancing to this stuff. I'm like, what? People actually liked it? So then all of a sudden, times we share, though, that one we liked. And again, no, the BPMs are slower, and it's more of like, it's just, that song should have been a damn single. It's a criminal. I just want to make that observation. All we cared about was the ballads.
The ballads, yeah.
As far as number 5 goes, it's Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. So for me, and the thing is, I don't even really listen to that album very often, but I just remember when it was out, like it was everything. And I believe it was the number 2 album, or maybe the number 1 album of '89, I think, selling. It was a monster out here. And when you think about just the whole first side is all singles. There isn't a B side on there. It's all, every one of them became a single. And then you got Every Little Step. And then after that, it's all, not singles, but you'll never see that again. Maybe you will, but I don't know if you will. But yeah, I think the Don't Be Cruel album, with My Prerogative, was in my personal top 5, like, should be recognized.
Yeah, I think that Don't Be Cruel I think it's just underrated how great a track it is. Just the drum program by L.A. Reid, and just the singing, the rap, and just going. It was. I mean, it was like whoa. The rumor back in Nigeria back then was, that was supposed to be for Karen White, but it was too much. She said it was too many raps, so she didn't want to do it, and she dispelled that rumor. But it was my favorite track on the album is "Don't Be Cruel." As much as I love Teddy with the prerogative and She's My Lady, but I think "Don't Be Cruel" is just such a wow track on there. Yeah. Okay. VJ, what about you? Number 5.
This is not a copy of the album, but it's this lady.
Wow. Number 5.
Rhythm Nation. You can't mess with that album. It's absolute. It's just too good. I've got my stink face on, man. I don't know. It's just so good. That album, every single. Come on, how many singles did that album have? Every one a killer. Everything on that album. You cannot skip a track on there. There's nothing to skip. It's
We did it 2 weeks ago, and my favorite track on there was "All Right," and and I think they liked it so much they just kept doing the extended remix on the original version. They just go like, let's just keep, this is so funky, let's just keep going on with this. 6 minutes and 40 seconds of that track.
Yeah, and I support with you and Jackie McGee were quite dismissive of the album. I'm saying, how can you be?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, as I said, there was a lot of songs that to me sounded. It was almost as if here's the drum programming. We just switch a few things around, but here it is. So I preferred Control for Janet, but that's a different story. But Gigi, that's your number 5. So
Control is brilliant, though. Control is excellent.
Yeah.
And Andrew and me have this conversation a lot. Like, I think for both of us, we flip between Rhythm Nation and the Velvet Rope, and both of those are very, very good Janet albums. But maybe that's conversation for another day.
But I'd love to have that conversation. But yes, another time. But man, we've had passionate conversations about Velvet Rope. All right, keep on.
My number 5 is the Future album. I wish it would have been higher. When I remember, as I said, this was my first time getting a Teddy album because, as I said, I kind of rediscovered the the debut album later on. But when everyone says New Jack Swing, that was just the image I had was the Future album, and everything from Let's Stay Together, but it's long gone. Gotta Be a Leader. It was Dog Me Out, DOG Me Out. I mean, and I remember getting the booklet. I'm like, okay, Teddy produced everything, and then had the little stars and had the little asterisks, and it's like co-produced by Aaron Hall, and I was like, looking at all the Tammy and everyone singing. I was just that was memories of that album. Just loved that album. As I said, if it was done 10, 20 years ago, I probably would have been a little bit higher. But the other 4 albums ahead of this are justifiably ahead. But the Future.
Can I share a random fact about that album? There's the original version of Let's Chill was featuring the vocals of Damian Hall.
Did it ever get released with them?
I mean, Damian's a very good singer, but I think Aaron nailed it on that. That is a perfect song. It's a perfect song in its.
So one of the things that goodness, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. The end of it, Bernard Bell had said that Let's Chill was originally for Keith Sweat, and it was being produced for the New Jack Swing soundtrack or New Jack City soundtrack. So that, there you go, Tell Me No Again when he's singing at the wedding. And that makes sense now because Let's Chill singing at a wedding in that scene in the movie lyrically makes more sense. But Keith's voice just wasn't hitting on Let's Chill, so they had to switch it out. So, and I also want to say really quick, one of the things I love about this whole NJS thing is it's a platform to create a hive mind where we are all sharing knowledge. Someone just said in the comments that Roni was originally for the Gap Band. I kind of buy that, because again, it's like LaFace, they were a hit making machine, and that's crazy. I'm actually now trying to picture, Charlie Wilson singing Roni. It's crazy. So, to your point, Namdi, it's like, yeah, we were a news thing, but it was almost like a high. We're all sharing and learning together, contributing to this awesomeness. So again, shout out to the comment section. There's so many things I want to respond to, but I can't.
Can I just comment on Derek Mallory? He's just said that Damien Hall there's no version with Damien Hall. I can promise you there is a version that exists with Damien Hall singing the vocals. Stevie's heard it. Stevie knows it. It exists. So I'm not talking about the one that came out. I'm talking about the reference track. So that's for Derek.
Justin has jokes. He said, is this podcast being sponsored by Ralph Tresvant because we make the top 10?
He's a joker. He's a joker.
Yeah, and Derek also, Damien has confirmed that he actually did record a version of it,
100%.
and the label just thought, we don't want to mess things up, and we've got our lead singer. Let's just keep it in that way, and I think that was what Lily referenced. No, it wasn't Lily. I think it was Brian Alexander Morgan that, look, this is our lead singer. We go down this direction. We don't want to slaughter the golden calf and just confuse people. So that was a disappointment for Damien. So that was your number 5 or number 4?
That's number 5. We're still on number 5, aren't we?
Number 5. I did the future.
Yeah,
so that was...
You've just done the future. I've still got to do my 5, and then we go to...
Oh, so we were commenting on mine. Yeah, what's yours, Stevie?
I think in any other album chart, this probably would be number 1. It's an album that it's close to my heart, and I know for a lot of other people, it's close to yours as well. Again, it's debatable whether it's a New Jack album or not, but it's. I've just kept listening to it over the years. Gives me several different arrays of emotions, but it's hard. It's killing me that it's at number 5, but New Edition, Any Heartbreak at number 5. Why is it number 5? I just love this album so much. Yeah.
You think you feel bad about putting it at number 5? It didn't even make my top 10. I've really got issues, and it's not because because you know what it is. I didn't know if you'd class that as New Jack. So I don't know.
If it isn't love, is a New Jack. Crucial to me. The remix,
crucial remix is definitely New Jack.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 4, Andrew.
Number 4 is an album that if I think about it too much, I will get emotional because it got me through a really tough night. I'm not going to go into details on why it was a tough night, but it was a tough night. I just played it over and over again, and I got through. And that is, yes, Guy, The Future. Some people think that the original Guy album is over The Future. Not me. I think The Future was Teddy, like next level Teddy, like adrenalized. I mean, every song on there, LOL at DP, by the way. Anyways. No. I mean, that it's the whole album is like a journey. It's a long album, and it just takes you, between even Tease Me Tonight with that crazy, like almost vulgar thing that Aaron does. Like, it's still part of the journey, I guess, right? But and Gotta Be a Leader, and just the whole like GR Productions thing. I love what you said about the liner notes with the little icons. I still want to know who the GR lesbians are, because that's from peace out to the GR lesbians. Anyway, but Smile is actually my favorite Guy song of all time. I know it's a weird one, but I love that song. There's something about it. But then Long Gone. Just the whole thing. Get With You. That album. It's The Future, the title track. It's just Let's Stay Together. I feel like Let's Stay Together and I Like the Way are actually they're pretty similar when you listen to them. You could actually sing each song over each other. But maybe I'll do a mashup someday. Anyway, you get the point. Guy, The Future, and that's my final answer.
VJ, what about you? Number
My
4.
number 4 is "Don't Be Cruel."
Wow.
On
And
tape.
I think "Don't Be Cruel" was a very magical album. "I'll Be Good to You" should have been a single. That comment's for you, Nanamdi, because I know you like Teddy, and that song should have been a single. And Stevie, you shared with me that there's this remix that was only on this CD compilation. I managed to get the promo 7-inch with that remix.
Yeah, I told you about that 7-inch, and you went and got it. I think you found it and got it on eBay after that.
And then it's on a CD compilation as well. I think you shared that with me.
It's on that gold. It's on the gold. Bobby Brown gold.
That's it. And Bobby Brown's "Don't Be Cruel." It was such a perfect album, and it represented such a specific time in my life. I didn't think that Bobby could come up with an album that could match it. And when Bobby came out, I was like, wow, I think he's done it. But then over time, I think "Don't Be Cruel" edges it. There are a couple of tracks I didn't like on "Don't Be Cruel," but you probably know what those are. I can't even remember who they were produced by. My apologies. But "Every Little Step," if that comes on anywhere I am in a good mood all of a sudden. It just changes my mood. "Don't Be Cruel," you mentioned that earlier, and Andy, I think that's a phenomenal song. That drum structure, fantastic.
Yeah. It's a pity I didn't even put it on mine. But I was thinking about the ones that I really, really love. But that's if when I do polls of like favorite new edition family members albums, that trumps Heartbreak. "Don't Be Cruel" is everyone just says yeah, because that's why Bobby's still adored because of that album. And did you see the video when I think he was on Full House dancing to "I'll Be Good to You"?
Oh, that was 227.
Oh, that's 227. Okay.
Yeah,
But
I remember that. That was a great episode on NBC. Yeah.
If you just watch how he just moves so effortlessly, I think people who say, "Oh, Chris Brown's an amazing dancer and Usher," and I'm thinking, you guys did not know when Bobby Brown was Bobby Brown. I think, there was Michael, there was Hammer. Bobby was just, he was just in that mix of performers. He was just on another level. So, yeah, definitely good shout. I picked the Guy album as number 4, and it is such the ballads. I mean, I can't remember who I was speaking to. It was probably some I can't remember who it was. I don't know who. I can't remember who the producer was. But what they said was that listening to Teddy's R&B ballads of the Guy album is like, okay, this is so we could start making love songs now. That love songs were cool for guys. That's how "Piece of My Love" and "Goodbye Love." That it was. And my biggest disappointment was, and it must be the Timmy Gatlin effect on this, because he went away from producing R&B tracks, slow jams like "Piece of My Love" and "Goodbye Love," but H-Town took it up. R. Kelly took that sound. Jodeci took that sound and made it bigger. And I think, Teddy, you came up with the blueprint on this and "Make It Last Forever." You kind of went away from it, and everyone else really took those type of slow jams forward, and he was the architect. But yeah, Groove Me, it's enough said with stuff with Groove Me. It was just like, what is this? Just out of this world. Yeah. So yeah, the Guy album is my number 4.
Wow.
I don't even know which is the best Teddy's jam. that's one or two.
Isn't it? That's an interesting conversation. I'll tell you what, it's not for me though. It's not Teddy's Jam 3.
No. Okay, The Godfather. No. Sorry. No. It's one or two, and sometimes it's 2 for me. Sometimes it's 1. So it just depends. Yeah, it's 2. Okay.
2 is fantastic. And the remixes for 2 were something else as well. Wow. What were they?
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. He always held something back for those remixes. Who was it? I think it was John Marita was talking about how the remixes were like hold something back. Though he was always Teddy says, yeah, we have to hold it back for the remix. Come on, Stevie.
My number 4, I've got a story about this, and it does relate to the forum, and it does relate to when I last saw Andrew. Naively on the forum back then, I didn't realise that New Jack was big in Australia. It had a little scene in Australia because we had several forum members like DJ Puppet, David Yardin, who's a regular viewer of Halftime Chat, Ross, who's Mortimer, who always in the comments. Hold that thought, because I end up getting on a plane. I think I can't remember the year, but it was like, might be 2010 maybe. I travelled 6,000 miles to New York. I'm hanging out with Knight in New York. We decide to go record shopping. And he texts me to Brooklyn. And we end up in this place called The Thing. We videoed it. It's on Knight's YouTube. You can go and watch it now. So we're in this basement, which is just like, it's a maze of vinyl. And we was in there for hours. And there was only 3 people down there. There was me, Knight, and there was this other guy in the background digging. And eventually I just said, "Hey, mate, how you doing?" And he went, "All right, mate." And I get this Australian accent. And I says, what are you looking for, by the way? Just, and he went, I'm just looking for some R&B in this thing called New Jack Swing. And I went, "You what?" And I says, "Come over here." So he comes out. I says, "Who are you?" And he goes, "My name's Shrugs." And I'm like, he goes, "And you I went, and I can't believe that I traveled 6,000 miles to some record store and then you end up meeting a forum member in this basement. It's just like, it freaks me out to this day. And that stuff, how does he get to number 4? Well, he was showing me what he had in his collection, what he just found. And he goes, "Oh, I found this 12-inch by this group that I've always been looking for." And the group was Cool School. Cool School has made my number 4, the Cool School. So it goes back to that. I just think this is a shocker for most. You're going to think, some people like, who are Cool School? But this is an incredible, underrated New Jack album. One of my all-time faves. I still play it to this day. If you've not got it, go and buy a copy. I just love it. Jesse Johnson produced it. It's got the Minneapolis funk New Jack sound to it. There's a vocalist called Craig Dion, who's the lead vocalist. I don't know what's happened to him. I'd love to get the guys on the podcast. They were originally a group called The Crash from 1987. Then they lost the lead singer, and then Craig Dion or Dion Craig came. He took over the group as lead vocalist, and some of you might know My Girlie, Waste My Time. It's just a great album. It's a number 4 for me.
Were you guys on East Village?
Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, Brooklyn. Okay. So, and what's your number 3? Now to the top 3.
Now to the top 3. It's just water in my big silver cup, by the way. No wine in here. No, number 3. And people got jokes talking about it's just New Edition spinoff acts in my top 10. But not to disappoint you. Yes. Number 3 is, again, Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe. As I said, I'm picking albums from the era. So the whole New Jack, not New Jack thing is, neither here nor there for me. I want to call out I think the Wookie Stewart, Timmy Gatling tracks on that album, particularly I Do Need You and When Will I See You Smile. I actually think Poison is a perfect album. There isn't a bad track on there. I mean, everyone, Ain't Nothing Changed, Word to the Mother. Of course, Thought It Was Me was just like, my God, but then Dope, Me Do Me, I prefer the remix. Actually, I love the Wolf and Epic remix. That's like one of my favorite remixes of all time. I don't even listen to the album version, like the regular version of Poison. I only listen to the extended one. I don't know why. The regular one's just kind of eh. And then Ain't Nothing Changed. I just love the Jackson samples. Like, they were just on some different stuff. I just feel like what I love about that album is no one expected these 3 backup singers to do anything. And they ended up being, honestly, probably the biggest of the spinoffs. I mean, when you go to the concert and BBD comes on, the energy is just different.
Yeah.
So I just love, right? So I just love that these 3 like underdogs came out and just killed the game with style, innovation, charisma, and they had the lowest budget album too. You could tell, but like they just brought it. And I'm sure I'll be sure to this day is like, why didn't I take Poison? So anyway,
and the backstory
yeah,
about Belle Biv
I
DeVoe is
love that
great
album.
as well. Like the three of them are thinking, look at what Bobby's doing, look at what everybody else is doing, Ralph and Johnny. They're like, what are we gonna do? And then Jimmy Jam just says, set up a group. And Jimmy Jam set that up. That's how incredible is that? They, you know, he ushered them in, and then
yeah, it was at the Any Heartbreak like celebration party, and it's just like, you know, they had Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Belle Biv DeVoe, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
gotta love it.
And that's why I said if Ralph had come out before the Belle Biv DeVoe album, it probably would have been a bigger album, because that was such a it was different, you know, because it was hip hop soul kind of, you know, that mix, which wasn't what we because they didn't do much rapping on the, apart from Heartbreak. There wasn't many. We didn't get the Ronnie and Mike rapping much on any of the any albums, and that sort of blend of hip hop and R&B was not. It was still new, so that was such a groundbreaking album, and it was TLC copied that, the whole vibe and the stuff. That's how groundbreaking it was, and I think it was, you know, great tracks. I mean, I love Word to the Mother remix, because goodness, that blew my mind when they all came out and did. I was like, wow, if they just came out with a New Edition album just at that time, and it would have just blown up if they just said, okay, let's quickly do an Any album with that stuff going on tour. They would have just but you know,
and exactly with what you've just said, there was a shift, right? There was a kid at school, and he was a big hip hop head. So there were two albums we were listening to. Back then we used to share tapes. I think one of us had Eazy-E's album and one of us had Belle Biv DeVoe's album. And then he's a pure hip hop head. I said, which one do you like, Eazy-E or Belle Biv DeVoe? And reluctantly he said, don't tell anyone, Belle Biv DeVoe. He was like a proper nutter, right? Like, I love my hip hop.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because he said Belle Biv DeVoe is brilliant. And that album changed something.
Yeah. I mean, Poison is still massive. Anywhere you go right now, such a big, massive hit right now. And then When Will I See You Smile Again? I Do Need You. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Anyway.
Shameless self-promotion. So I went on a cruise for the first time in my life, Virgin Voyages, and I actually my go-to karaoke song is Poison. And after I did that song, the video is somewhere, right? You guys can find it if you want. After I did that song for the next 3 days on the cruise, I issue not. Everywhere I went, they're like, "You're the Poison guy." Like, I was just getting recognized. It was crazy. So I just forgot to say that Poison, like people, it's an anthem. It's crazy how to this day people from our generation, they hear it's over, you know.
Yeah.
So
Spider-Man Freeze. VJ, what about you? Number three.
Number three is, and this is reluctantly, I want to put it further up. These three, all of these three, my last three albums should all be at number one. But my number three is Guy the Future, and this is the laser disc with all the videos off that album.
Wow.
So Guy the Future is just perfection. I'll tell you about my criminal history a little bit. I didn't have money as a kid, so I stole a copy of The Future from Tower Records in London.
Wow.
So
Tower Records, you say that, but
hope nobody's listening.
I think are they closed? Are they still around?
No, it's I don't think they're going to do anything now. But it was a long time ago. It was a one-off.
It was a statute of limitations. Yeah.
But that album, I absolutely battered in my Walkman. You couldn't read the words anymore. I just kept flipping it over, and it was amazing.
I like somebody mentioned it. Yeah, long gone hits you differently as you get older. I mean, it was just yeah. Most of yeah, we love the song. I don't even know what my favorite track on that album is. It wasn't Let's Chill because that's everyone says Let's Chill. It was, I think it was Let's Stay Together to me. I like the extended remix of that, but yeah,
Yeah.
and the harmonies and
Let's Stay
stuff.
Together was fantastic. But
Wow.
what surprised me, and I didn't realize, like a lot of these artists were influenced by other people. Like Guy were meant to recreate the Gap Band, and I didn't know that.
The Gap Band.
I found that out much later. And Yearning for Your Love was one of my favorite songs. And I heard that, I'm thinking, oh my God, Aaron Hall sounds amazing on this. And then I realized many years later, I'm like, this is a Gap Band song. And you're trying to compare it with the Gap Band version. You're thinking, whatever. I was having a drink with Deezo back in the day. And
As one
Deezo
does.
is cousins with Aaron Hall. So I said, who's a better singer out of your cousin, Aaron, and Charlie Wilson? And Deezo just started laughing at me. He said, Uncle Charlie, man, what's wrong with you? And I said, I told him my personal choice was Aaron Hall because obviously because of our era. Yeah, exactly. But it was an interesting conversation. And Guy of the Future, it's just such a ridiculously good album.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's. I think the biggest shame is that Damien didn't get his ability to shine on that album. They should have given him his spot because Timmy sang on the Guy album, Aaron and Teddy, and that formula worked where everyone felt that they had the space and not giving Damien anything to really do apart from Dog Me Out, Thought You Loved Me. Why you hadn't dug? It could have
Teddy's
given
Jam,
more.
he was responsible for one of the remixes on there. I don't know if it was included. It might have been included on the promo 12 and promo CD, but there is a version. There is a remix that Damien has done for one or two remixes for Teddy's Jam too. So he did that, and he did obviously Dog Me Out, as you mentioned. And the song that he was meant to do was Let's Chill, but then that went to Aaron.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think on Guy 3, which one of somebody in the comments really likes that album. We can have a whole conversation about that. Whoever that person is, we should have them on so we can just have that conversation. But Damien did some good bits on Guy 3. I thought his vocal sounded good on songs like Love Online and things like that. But I agree, he should have had more prominence on that second album.
Yeah. My number 3 normally would always be my top 2 albums, but because we're doing New Jack, it sadly falls to number 3. And I'm going to be considered, well, it's still in the era of New Jack, but when I listen to songs like One More Night, and you just the harmonies, the way it just goes up, down, just it just blows my mind. Two can play that game. We've talked about it till the end of time. Loving You Down. It's I mean, I right now I just listen to the 7 Teddy tracks, and then that's it. Then I skip everything else because I'm just thinking that, to me, that production wise, I don't think Teddy has done. Even though he's done some stuff on my favorite album, but I think production-wise, the way he was, how he blended in the harmonies, how he just got everything ticking. The recording, the crisp of the song, the way Bobby, not the greatest vocalist, but it was him. It just didn't. It just seemed to fit. Like he knew how to get him fit like a glove. The Bobby album is, Stevie knows every time I can mention the Bobby album, I'll always mention the Bobby album. To me, it's up there. I mean, there are 2 other track albums that are just above it, but if I'm just in my top 5, my top 10 favorite albums, it would probably be number 2. But for New Jack, it's number 3.
Did you like the Getaway remixes?
Yeah, there's something about the Getaway album, the track that I I didn't think that should have been. I still think that the Teddy tracks. I think the That's the Way Love Goes should have been the first single with Rex and Effect. So you're capitalizing on Rump Shaker, so you get Bobby featuring Rex and Effect, and and I think Getaway has grown on me. But I think it wasn't the first single I wanted. It wasn't the third single. I hated the fact that Humping Around was the first single and Good Enough. I thought that was a rubbish track. I was like, how could you get LA and Babyface imitating Teddy and putting their tracks out? And Lil Salisbury always says in an interview that his biggest mistake was he was trying to replicate the Don't Be Cruel album. He wanted to replicate the Don't Be Cruel and Roni, and then Prerogative. He thought the formula would work with this, but the times had changed. Teddy was the bigger producer, and he messed that whole Bobby album up.
And you mentioned One More Night as well. What a song, man! What a song, man!
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yes.
I'm getting excited thinking about that song. How good is that song? Why was that not a single?
Yeah.
Yes.
John Marie was saying,
how do you make a radio edit of it though? It's so long. That's probably why.
Yeah,
they would have made if they could make Bohemian Rhapsody sing out there, they could have made it. They could have done it. They could have edited it down. It was such. I mean, they could have done it. Yeah, they could have done it. It's my top 5 favorite songs ever. One More Night.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much I love that song. Across all genres.
That's a big.
Wow.
That's top 5. Yeah, I just love that track.
Okay. It's a great song.
Number 3 is I've got the same superstar as you at number 3, but a different album. That made my number 3. And what is bizarre now is like we still have HMVs in the UK to go and buy a new album, and you go for it, and for some reason the Bobby Brown album's not there anymore, and I don't know why. But I've ended up like getting 10 copies of this via charity shops. Every time I see one in a charity shop for 50p or £1, I just end up buying it. So I probably got a bag of Bobby Brown album. VJ, what happened to that reissue, that double CD reissue?
Oh, fantastic! There's some great bits on.
Great reissue, but they deleted it as soon as it come out. What was going on?
I think they decided not to give it permission or something like that. Something which was, I think, $18 is now worth maybe $80.
Universal need to reissue. They need to reissue this album.
I thought they just do that about 2 years ago?
Digital, yeah, but I'm talking about physical copies.
Oh, digital.
You don't see it in stores anymore.
Okay.
Press it up on vinyl again and get some more CDs out there.
Shout out to the person that curated that double CD, Donald Cleveland. Shout out, mate. He's done a great job on that, but it's a shame that it got pulled. That's it's madness. I don't know what happened there.
I told you, Nam, to get a copy. Yeah. It's like a share value. It's gone right up that CD.
Yeah, like shares, exactly. That's how us collectors look at it, like shares.
Yeah, like shares. Is it the old Bitcoins or what's that, crypto? Andy, what's number 2 for you?
Number 2, let the jeers begin. All right, so this is again era. Number 2 for me is the one and only Rhythm Nation 1814. And the reason why is because songs like All Right and The Knowledge, I think, definitely are Jam and Lewis leaning into the NJS sound. I think as an album, it is flawless from top to bottom, left to right, up and down, whatever. It's just amazing. It had 7 top 10 singles. It spanned from September of '89 basically to like early '91 in terms of relevance because of how many songs came out. I could drop them. I could say Miss You Much, Rhythm Nation, Escapade, All Right, the Come Back to Me, Black Cat, and then Love Will Never Do Without You. Okay, and then the State of the World came out, which is also a very New Jack track, State of the World. So 8 singles off of one album. I'm sorry, Jam and Lewis were on fire. And again, I just point to Heavy D and All Right, just to basically say, yo, they definitely put their arms around the genre. So Justin's like, nah. Anyway, but that's my personal number 2, and I'll defend that to death.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, Stevie, we did the album last 2 weeks ago with Jackie McGee, and I was like, reluctantly, I mean, apart from All Right, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna squeeze up a song. I mean, I think that the Knowledge was okay as well. I like the Knowledge, but yeah, it was good for Jam and Lewis. I think they were like, okay, how do we do what this Teddy kid is doing and stuff? And have you ever seen a video with Babyface? I think even I saw an interview with Jam and Lewis, or Jimmy Jam with Quest, and he said when they first heard "I Wanna," they were like, "What is the hell is this?" I mean, that's how it shook, and even Babyface said the same thing, that when that "I Wanna" came out, that they were like, "Oh my goodness," So it had an effect on what they started to do, and so I'll give them their thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one thing I loved about Let's Chill, though, is I read or heard somewhere Teddy actually say Let's Chill he was trying to do his Jam and Lewis. Like, that was him trying to be like Jam and Lewis. And I think that's love, to have the two producers like looking at each other's work and letting it influence their creative process.
Yeah. Well, I always said Teddy did it by himself. Jam needed Lewis, and LA needed Babyface. They couldn't. They had to. And Teddy was just like, what's. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he had Bernard, he had Tammy, he had a lot of people around. VJ, what's your number 2?
Number 2, you might not be able to see this, but this is the original reel to reel of the First Guy album.
Wow.
So this is the First Guy album, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see it.
Just about making it out.
Sort of see it.
Yeah. So Groove Me, Teddy's Jam, Don't Clap, Just Dance, You Can Call Me Crazy, Piece of My Love, I Like, Round and Round, Merry-Go-Round of Love, Spend the Night, Goodbye Love, and My Business. You cannot beat this album. This is it. It's a number 2.
But that's your number 2, so I think you can beat it based on your.
No, my top 3 are all number 1. I've said that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Guy's first album, absolute perfection. Honorable shout out to Albie Shaw on You Can Call Me Crazy. We found that out a few years ago, that he was the vocalist on the last bit because Timmy had left and all of that.
But then Timmy came out to say, "Look, I was did the first part, and then Jimmy Gene kicked him off, and he did the second." But who knows?
You mentioned something earlier, and I think Timmy was a pivotal part of Guy. And personally, this is just me personally, it would probably never happen, but for me, in my fan head, I would love to see a world where you've got Teddy, Aaron, Damien, and Timmy doing a tour together. That would blow my mind. That would be amazing. I mean, or do an album together.
Yeah, I mean,
do something. But
yeah. If Oasis can reunite, I mean, come on.
Can reunite, then surely Guy can.
Surely, because Timmy was the writer. He said he was the writer, and he set the tone, and Teddy built on that, and he kept looking. He got Bernard, he got everyone else, but I think that was a big element of the lyrics, the music, and I think if there was a Timmy and Teddy production, God knows what would have happened if we had just had them do their Jimmy and Terry and Ellie and Babyface and Teddy and Timmy writing production. It would have just been something else. My number 2 is when it comes to New Jack. To me, this is I mean, it's strange because it's number 2, but I would say it was vocally. I think this person was outsung Aaron. I think they really took advantage of watching Teddy and learning how to do their production and the sampling. And it was, to me, the Basic Black album as a New Jack album is my all-time favorite. It's number 2 because it's my all-time favorite New Jack album. It's number 1. But this one, you go for, apart from apart from the last track, which is the one that Gene Griffin says, "Yeah, we need a feel good song to you're stupid," or something like that. I think that should have been scrapped out. But everything from Special Kind of Fool, um, She's Mine, Nothing But a Party. Goodness, I listened to that and I was like, wow, that is. You should. Someone says, "What's the new Jack track?" Nothing But a Party. I was all alone with nothing to do. Neither. I was just. I thought it was Guy, and then somebody said no. They were the ones who Emmett took over from Guy. I didn't know the whole relationship with G and stuff, but I love the Basic Black album. Diesel on vocally, just on fire, just on point with that album. And Mucho and KB and Sprague, the production and Sprague and Spec. Yeah, so that Basic Black album
It's
is
a
number
phenomenal
2.
album, isn't it? This is the one. Hold on, I just this one. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I wish they had dressed them better than that, but anyway.
And a lot of people said they're like imitation Guy. I never saw them like that at all.
No,
They're in their own lane, and I think they absolutely nailed the album.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was. Yeah, an amazing production, amazing album.
So that's like. So what did you just say there, Namdi? That's your favorite all-time new Jack album.
It
Yeah,
is
number 2.
It is, but
And
it is
what
number
was you
2
saying
because
before
as
about-
VJ
what
has
you
said,
saying
all
before
his
about
number
Mr.
1, 2,
Riley,
and
then
3.
there was all these imitators. So weren't they like the biggest imitators?
No, they weren't, because they were under in the camp. They were in the camp. You know, Mucho would say, "Look, they said they were sitting watching Teddy work. It was just like the most amazing thing just to watch him work in the studio, just to see how he was doing his stuff." And so they were part of the crew. I mean, they were the band for today. They were part of GR Production. They were the band for today. They were all part of the whole thing. And but they were hungry, and it's different when you're hungry and you put out an album. And Diesel was hungry. Diesel was just on another level when he sang. And it wasn't that, and I think Aaron's voice, we knew Aaron because Aaron sang the hits, and you get familiar with his voice. But Diesel, the way he enunciates his words and the power he brings. And if you watch the videos, the joy he brings when he's singing, he's just happy. I mean, so it's a vibe of the video. Mucho and Spec, how they just do that. They keep dancing and they go back to their stuff and play. I mean, loved them.
Can I ask you guys a question? Just so, if Teddy was Teddy and he had lots of producers that worked with him, who would be the top 1 or top 2 producers that would take over that mantle from his camp that was working with Teddy at some point?
So we're not talking about Darkchild and
whoever you like. It doesn't matter. You can whoever you like. Who would you say is up there? Because you mentioned Mucho a lot today.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd have to mention Mucho. You would have to. Say.
Of course. I'm not disagreeing. I think Mucho is an incredible producer. What a talent!
Because what's at number 2, Namdi, in your album chart is Basic Black, produced by Mucho. That says it all, really. Unless you want to include, if you want to say Pharrell, or Darkchild, but that's different eras, isn't it?
Yeah, they were different. I mean, Mucho mentioned it. Yet both Neptunes and Darkchild were there when he was there, and he actually welcomed Darkchild because he saw that he had some stuff and he would have pushed them and stuff. But I think that what separated them from Mucho was they were visionaries. They're younger and they could see outside of Teddy, whilst the rest, like Sprague, was an amazing producer, but they were Teddy was the main person, and so they were still under him and stuff. So if there was anyone that came out of his camp, goodness, I probably would have said Darkchild. If anyone that came out of the camp, just because the Neptunes were everything was so similar, and it got boring after a while. Everyone just copied, but Darkchild was able to keep reinventing. So,
yeah,
anyway.
I think the big hitters would be Pharrell and Darkchild, but then I think Mucho, Spragg, Bernard Bell, just ridiculous talent. So much talent. Much talent. What about you guys?
You'd have to be one of them, like you say, Mucho, Dave Way, Bernard Bell.
Dave Way, another one, man. What a talent.
Anyway, come on, guys. Time.
Sorry.
So, Stevie, what's your number 2?
Then we're on number 1. Then finally,
yeah,
I have to agree with you, Namdi.
Oh,
nice.
Okay.
This is a great New Jack Swing album. I got to mention the ARB guys as well who contributed to it. Mention Zan. Again, I keep mentioning this guy in the podcast. The forgotten Zan. We need his story. If anyone knows where Zan is, please, Zan, come on halftime chat. We need your story.
I think he's a bit shy.
Well, we need to stop him being shy for 2 hours.
He's got some stories. I bet he's got some stories.
Is he in the UK?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, Andrew, what's your number 1?
To no one's surprise, it is. It is love. No. Yeah, man. It is Heartbreak, new edition, number 1. Heartbreak and Guy came out the same day. I want to say it was June 8th, 1988. MCA Records. And for me, like, there was even
the same day. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there was the tour, the Heartbreak tour, had Al B. Shore, Bobby Brown at certain points, as well as the girls. They were on the tour too, and Guy. So the whole movement was kind of, they were the anchor of that movement in terms of what was happening in the U.S. during the touring phase. So from start to finish, I think Jamin Lewis created a perfect album. Again, there's lots of arguments saying it's an R&B album. It's not a New Jack Swing album. I will accept that, fine, but it is definitely of the era for sure. And then when you actually go to the remixes, though, I do think that they go into NJS, particularly with Crucial. Even I think sampling a little bit of New Jack Swing. Legitimately, you actually hear a little bit of it, I think, in the mix. But man, the Heartbreak album I listen to almost on a daily basis, even to this day. I still listen. And whether you're talking about Can You Stand the Rain, whether you're talking about I'm Coming Home, which is like the song I wish they would perform live. Please, you did it back in 88, 89. Please do it for residency at some point. I could easily give an hour seminar on so that's why it's my number 1. And it's a personal choice, but it is absolutely foundational to the fiber of my mental health. No, I'm being a little too much now, but you know what I'm saying. I fucking love the damn album.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, VJ, what about you?
My number 1, I haven't got any bits to show you for it. I'll just say what it is. It's Michael Jackson's Dangerous.
Wow, I wasn't expecting
that. That plus the 2 Guy albums are the greatest New Jack Swing projects of all time. I'd say Michael probably edges it. Michael is Michael. And the fact that when I found out that Teddy was working on that project, I lost my shit, man. I was like, I couldn't comprehend, man. My brain, my little head was just like, it was just too excited. So I remember going into W.H. Smith the first day that the album came out and buying the cassette and just listening to it on my Walkman and just being very, very excited. First time I heard She Drives Me Wild.
What? Oh, you drive me like,
what is going on? What is this music? This is Teddy and Michael. This music shouldn't be this good. It's not allowed. It was absolute perfection. And the two tracks that people, I don't know, people know, but Teddy he's not credited, but he was involved with them, was Will You Be There? And there's another track which he's not credited on Dangerous. He was a musical supervisor. He actually advised on how those songs. So he did 7 tracks where he was credited for, which he did. He was a super.
Was that Who Is It?
Who Is It? Will You Be There? I can't remember the other song. Keep the Faith. Keep the Faith was the other one. They're the 9 tracks. So those 7 Teddy tracks plus those makes 9 out of 14 tracks. So I'd say that's a heavily Teddy influenced album. So anybody that says that's not New Jack Swing, get out of my face, man. It is. It's my favorite. I love it. I have.
Okay. My number one is it's been my number one for many years, and Teddy produced 7 tracks, and then the 8th track he co-produced. So I think they did a track, and he came in later on and did the co-production with it. But Make It Last Forever. The very first, it starts off with the whole key interlude, and that just blows my mind. Something just ain't right. Oh goodness, they don't do that anymore. Where you have the little Teddy little keyboard break and stuff like that. Forget I wanna. It's something just ain't right. Let me see. In the Rain, all the songs on there. So Make It Last Forever. I mean, that was, Teddy didn't even realize, he recently just got his publishing and his name credited because it was all Keith Sweat and Vincent and stuff on there. But yeah, just because of time, I would have gone more in depth with that song album. But that to me is Teddy at his newest and his rawest, doing his thing, and Make It Last Forever is my number one.
Nice choice.
Well, good evening to Leaky Fresh. How you doing, sir? Leaky Fresh used to be on a radio station called Sunset Radio, the first black music radio station ever in Manchester, the late 80s, early 90s. He used to do a thing on a Sunday evening called 9 for the 90s New Jack Swing. And I'd do this chart, and I ended up, whatever he played in this chart, I'd go and buy the following Saturday in the import record shop. So he was one of the first pioneers in Manchester playing New Jack Swing. So big shout to him. So Namdi, what was your number one again?
Make It Last
Forever. And how many New Jack Swing tracks were on it? 2?
Hey, Teddy did 7, did 8, 7
DJ,
and a half.
what's your number 1 again?
Michael Jackson, Dangerous.
How many New Jacks? We had 7 on that. We'll say 7. Andrew, what was your number 1 again? How many New Jack Swing tracks were on it?
I'm not playing this game.
Number 1 is for New Jack Swing. There's no debate in here. That's the greatest swing record ever made. That's it. Done.
Yeah. No.
Video. What about the fans? What did they?
Nothing comes close to this album for me.
Actually, selfishly, someone had said that Long Gone hits differently
when you get older.
Of course it does.
And Boyz II Men by New Edition, I think, also gets hits differently as you get older, in my opinion, because I'm thinking about all the things that happen in your life, people passing on, that kind of thing. It's just like, it just hits different, growing up can be a pain. Anyways, I just had to say that.
VJ, what about the Community? What was their top 2?
There was, it ended up being a top 59. I'm going to do this very, very quickly. Number 59? New Jack City, number 59, original soundtrack. 58, Simple Pleasure, the album. 57, Strictly Business, Uptown Records soundtrack. 56, House Party 2, original soundtrack. 55,
Yeah, we didn't do any house tracks.
55, House Party 1, original soundtrack. 54, The Girls, Love Me or Leave Me. 53, Father MC, Close to You. 52, Belle Biv DeVoe, WBBD, Boot City. 51, Joe, Everything. Number 50, Tony, The Revival. 49, Mint Condition, Meant to be Mint. 48, La Rue, Do It for Love. 47, I'll Give All My Love to You. 46, For Sure, We Can Swing It. 45, Big Bub, Coming at You. 44, Arts and Crafts, The Experience. 44, Levert, For Real Though. 43, Chucky Booker, Nice and Wild. 42, Chucky Booker, Chucky. 41, Mac Band, Love You to the Limit.
Wow.
Number 40, Keith's Mac Band should have been mentioned. They've got some great New Jack tracks.
I'm amazed that's made it. That's great.
Yeah. Number 40, Keith Sweat, Keep It Coming. 39, Father MC, Father's Day. 38, it was going to come in somewhere. R. Kelly and Public Announcement, Born into the 90s.
Yep.
Great album.
Fantastic album. Number 37, Heavy D and the Boys, Peaceful Journey. Number 36, Deja, Made to Be Together.
Wow.
Number
Brilliant
30,
album.
35, Rex in Effect, Hard or Smooth. Number 34, Tony, Sons of Soul. 33, Jeff Red, Quiet Storm. 32, Christopher Williams, Changes. 31, Troop, Deeper. 30, Blackstreet by Blackstreet. 29, Babyface, Tender Lover. 28, Today, The New Formula. 27, Portrait, self-titled album. 26, Mint Condition by Mint Condition. And 25, I'm so happy that this is in there. Mind, Is That the Way?
Yep. Awesome.
Heavy D and the Boys, Big Time is 24. Bobby Brown's Bobby made it to 23. Troops, Attitude is number 22. And surprised this hasn't been in further up in the list. Boys to Men, Coolie Eye Harmony, number 21. Andrew will be proud of number 20, Ralph Tresvant by Ralph Tresvant. Cool School is number 19. N Touch All Night is 18.
Brilliant.
Mint Condition, Meant to be Mint is number 17. Johnny Gill's self-titled album is 16. Today's self-titled album is number 15. Surprised this is not higher as well. SWV's It's About Time is number 14. And is this a New Jack Swing album or is this not? Number 13 is Intro by Intro. Number 12, Belle Biv DeVoe, Poison. Number 11 is Basic Black by Basic Black. And that is what makes this top 10 very interesting. And I wanted to put this album in, but we couldn't because is it New Jack, is it not? This is number 10, Karen White.
Nice.
Number 9 is I'll Be Sure, In Effect Mode. Jodeci's Forever My Lady makes it to number 8. Andrew will be disappointed. New Edition's Any Heartbreak only made it to number 7.
That's great.
Keith Sweat's Make It Last Forever is number 6. And sorry to everybody that thinks this is not a New Jack Swing album. It's Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. Michael Jackson's Dangerous makes it to number 4. Number 3 is Guy, The Future. Number 2 is Guy.
Number 2.
I'm surprised.
So
Number 1, surprising, not surprising, is Bobby Brown's Don't Be Cruel.
Fair enough.
nice.
We'll take that.
Wow.
Did Mint Condition
Okay.
make that top 50?
Twice.
Okay, here's another group that we've not mentioned, and we're going to kill ourselves for this. Low Key.
Oh.
Low Key, man. How could we just don't mention them enough? Low Key. Their albums are incredible.
You didn't even mention Low Key, man. What the hell, man?
What about the girls? Did the girls get in that top 50?
The girls are in there, yeah.
Yeah, what about Abstract didn't get in there?
Girls
Did people
Love
not
Me or
really
Leave
like
Me
that
is in there.
Abstract? No?
His ex-girlfriend? Did
No one
ex-girlfriend make it? No.
Ex-girlfriend's not in there.
Nope. En Vogue hasn't even been mentioned at all. I think En Vogue had a few, I mean, to me, like, now there's Foster McElroy, you had Lies, you had Hold On. But I also want to give props really quick to the comments once again, because they mentioned POV. And I remember they were out of Philly, I want to say, and I think Hakeem Abdul Samad from The Boys did production on that. I can't find their stuff anywhere, but I remember seeing them on Soul Train and liking what I heard. So props to all the deep cuts that are being mentioned on this podcast.
And there's so many producers like Herb Middleton, Hakeem Abdul Samad from The Boys, incredible producers. I mean, there's so many. This is a lot longer conversation. Look at this. Look, like, thank you so much for having us, guys. But we've been talking for over 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for at least another 3.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this again.
One request I'd like for these guys to come back on, Namdi. I sent you the New Kids on the Block album, Face the Music, because we want to do a 10-to-1 on that album, starting from 10-to-1. Would you guys like to come on? Do you know? I know, Knight, you probably know that album well. I don't. VJ, you
sure.
Would you guys would you allow that now? These guys, we could all do the. I'd just be fitting to get these guys for that album on it. 10-to-1. So if you listen to the album in the next few weeks, we'll schedule a date, come back on, and we'll do like a 10-to-1 on that. Because I just think, again, it's just an incredibly underrated album. And it's New Kids on the Block, you know.
Are you guys?
I want to jump in on that question, actually. So I actually, again, might not be good for everyone who doesn't live in the US, but I live in Las Vegas now. And one of the reasons why I moved here, I think Teddy lives here now, actually. But anyway, but that's not the reason.
He's moved to Dallas.
One of the reasons why I moved here is because a lot of the artists are doing their residencies here. Like Jodeci did residency here, New Edition did. I saw an amazing festival. So I'm thinking party in Vegas. Like, y'all come out, maybe do it around a weekend when something's happening. That's what I'm thinking, but I literally haven't thought of it in a long time. But me personally, absolutely. As far as London's concerned, VJ, you can talk to that. But I do think we should.
Let's do a party in Vegas, no problem. But let's do one in London. Big Mike's.
Yep.
A lot of people have been asking for a party again. Life gets a bit busy sometimes, and when do you make time for this stuff? Which is why we've done a lot less of this stuff in recent years. It's not that we're any less passionate. We love the music, obviously we do. It's in our soul, man. So we'll do another party for sure, man. We'll keep you posted, man.
Yeah, but we're going. Yeah, probably. Yeah, in November we're going to. November's in 2 weeks' time anyway. But we'll put a date to bring you you guys to come back so that we can pick up where we started. I know Stevie likes the New
Kids on the Block album.
You
need to listen to it, Namdi, then you'll know why. Then.
And the other thing is, the only way the party is going to happen in London is if Stevie is one of the DJs. That's the prerequisite. That's it. As long as Stevie's a DJ, we're good, man.
You know what? I'll hold you to that, but I won't DJ. I'm not.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to the party, but I won't DJ.
No. Cool, fair enough. I'm just.
I'll leave that to the DJs.
Cool. All good, man. But this has been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for having us and letting us tell our story a little. And
well, this is part one of the story because it was if you think about it, you said 3 hours. And it doesn't look like we've covered a lot, but there's still so much more history and stuff. And people have been staying along for 3 hours and still asking questions. Some of our European friends had to drop out because they're an hour ahead. So we'll definitely have to do this again. So yes, in about a couple of weeks' time. We'll
and
coordinate.
Andrew touched upon it earlier, and I'll say it as well. We love what you guys do. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I mean, there's some amazing. It's great. Like for me, my favorite one. It was when you went over the Jodeci "Forever My Lady" album. I love that. That was just as an outside observer looking in. I was like shouting at the screen, "No, you can't put that at number 5. What's wrong with you?" It was so much fun. So it's not just that; it's everything that you do. And we love that you're continuing to push the good music out there, and we're very grateful for that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, but as I said, you guys, you really were trendsetters, and it's to be, definitely been an honor that you guys took time out to come on today to share some of the story. And
It was an
we
unforgettable
definitely will still
experience.
need to make
That's what
sure
it was, an unforgettable. It's missed by many to this day.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, yes. So I know that for those of us in the UK, it is 20 minutes to 1 in the morning. For I know for those in the well, for you out in Andrea, it's probably just a couple of lunchtime, but yeah. So you can see the difference for all of us and stuff. But yeah, definitely. So guys, we want to thank you guys for comments, and as you guys make up the show with the comments and being part of it. It's a little bit longer than normal, but it was worth it. And we'll reschedule something else in another couple of weeks to have both VJ and Andrew back. And we will look at some albums, but also reminisce on some of the other things as well. But for now, definitely it's been great, and we will. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, Big Mike's, but it was great. Will's good to see that you were able to tune in. And
one last thing, shout out to Stevie, man. Stevie is the G, man. There's like 3 people on planet Earth that have the musical brain that he does. Tap into this guy's brain. He is the Don, man. So Stevie, shout out to you,
you know a lot, VJ. You're right. You're right.
All good. But Stevie, you the man.